little louder. We will now reconvene and resume the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The time is now 7 o'clock p.m. Board trustees present are Chris Bell, Rhonda Newhouse, Deborah Jensen, Justine Durant, Jana Gonzalez, and Donald Davis. I would like to ask everyone to turn off or silence your cell phones and other electronic devices at this time. Thank you. To introduce our color guard, I would like to recognize Trustee Don Davis.
Thank you, President Jensen. Our colleagues on the school board, tonight is my distinct honor to introduce you to Westfield Junior ROTC High School ROTC Color Guard. The Color Guard commander carrying the American flag is Walker Blakely. Carrying the Texas flag is Maria Alvarez. U.S. Guard is Carlos Munez. The Texas Guard is Faith Jones. And leading the Pledge of Allegiance tonight is Cadet Lee. Will you please stand this time during the presentation of the colors. Once the colors have been completed, please remain standing.
Color guard, attention. Carry colors. Forward, march. March on, march. Color guard, halt. Present colors.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Order, colors. Outward, face. Forward, march. March on, march. Color guard, halt. Post. The colors. Present arms. Order, arms. Outward, face. March on, march. Forward, march.
I fairly recognize their Commander Director, Charles Thompson.
Please remain standing. At this time, I'd like everybody to quietly observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Our next item is the superintendent's remarks. At this time, I would like to recognize our superintendent of schools, Dr. Rodney Watson.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen, and other trustees on the board. We have several announcements that I'd like to update you on tonight. Before I jump into the individual announcements, I would like to have a couple of people come up. We'll bring them up one at a time. These are new individuals that are new to our district. The first individual that I'd like to introduce you to is Trent Miller. Trent, can you come up to the podium, please? I'm excited to introduce Mr. Trent Miller as the new head football coach and athletic director for Spring High School. Mr. Miller has served at Spring High School for nearly 5 years and has seen the campus and district grow and change. Mr. Miller has served as an educator and football coach for 8 years, starting at Klein Forest High School, having a brief stop at Cypress Ranch High School, and now currently at Spring High School. Mr. Miller states that he is a loving and devoted husband to his beautiful wife, Lindsay, of 9 years, and a father of 3 amazing children, Michael, 6, Cole, 4, and Sadie, who is 2. Mr. Miller's goal is to build an athletic program that the community and our students are proud of and are excited to be a part of. It is his mission to get the community more involved in school programs, to continue to change the culture of the programs in a positive way, and to building a safe and successful program that everyone in this area is talking about and wants to be a part of. I'd like to welcome Trent Miller and invite him to say a few brief words.
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight? I'm super excited to be here. Had a great time at Spring High School. I'm looking forward to the future, what the future holds for Spring High School, our athletes and our students. It's been a crazy 7 weeks throughout the whole process of going through what was, the interview process and the hiring process. And since I've taken over the last 2 weeks, it's been just an amazing ride. I've been shown so much gratitude and support from our coaching staff, from our administration, from central administration. It's just been great. I'm just super excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to the changes, in a positive way that we're gonna make going forward at Spring High School. So again, thank you all for having me here, and I look forward to our future here at Spring High School.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And that's a fine-looking tie.
Did you bring any family with Coach?
Trent?
Did you bring any family, anybody else with you you want to recognize?
My wife in the back, Lindsay, go ahead and stand.
Okay, next I'd like to ask Gary Hutton to come forward. There he is. He was standing out in the hall. So as Gary's coming forward, let me give you a little bit more information about Gary. Gary was born and raised in South Africa, where he studied architecture at Technikon Natal. After graduating, he worked in the construction industry in South Africa for several years before relocating to the United States with his spouse. In 2000, Gary joined SHW Group Architects as a project manager on various educational facilities. In 2005, Gary progressed to the public sector as a project manager for Humble ISD. In 2007, Gary moved to Tomball ISD and accepted the position as Director of Construction. As Director of Construction in Tomball, Gary oversaw Tomball's $198 million 2007 bond program and Tomball's $160 million 2013 bond program. Some of the projects that Mr. Hutton has contributed to include the construction of Canyon Point Elementary, Creekside Forest Elementary, Timber Creek Elementary, Tomball Memorial High School, the Tomball Technology and Staff Development Center, Tomball Intermediate School renovations, Decker Prairie and Lakewood Elementary Kindergarten additions, Tomball Independent School District Project Barn, transportation additions and a new fuel island, ancillary services, offices and warehouse building, and the John P. Neubauer Administrative Building. I'd like to welcome Gary to the team.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. I appreciate the opportunity to be here at Spring ISD and to be able to bring wonderful new facilities to the students and staff at Spring under budget, hopefully.
Welcome, thank you.
Thank you.
You
You have any family with you?
No, sir.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. Some of the other announcements that I have. So over the last several months, in terms of attendance bound, we have discussed in great detail the process that we've gone through. Tonight's meeting, you're going to hear the results. We have one of our partners here, K-12 Education, that will share with you some of our survey results. Ms. Davila Dunn will also share some of the results that we've gotten from our community. And we have our attendance boundary review committee here as well that will be here to share or answer any questions that you have. In addition to that, as you know, one of the charters that we had from you all was to go out and to really begin looking at the District of Innovation. And so if you have the opportunity to look at our website, we have posted information on our website describing the District of Innovation, the plan. We're currently in the 30-day period getting information and input from our community, and we've received through our Elevates information regarding comments regarding the District of Innovation. And so in our April meeting, we'll be coming back with you, sharing with you those comments and where we go in terms of working on the District of Innovation. In terms of updates, as a reminder, we're in one of the most important times in terms of our teacher recruitment. As you know, this is one of the busiest times of the year for the HR department to go out and recruit the best teachers that we can find for our students. And so we wanted to remind everyone that we are having a job fair on April 1st, if anyone would like to stop by. In addition to that, as the spring livestock show and fair quickly approaches, you'll begin to hear more information about the Spring ISD Stampede later today in the presentation as well. We also, as always, look forward to your support, being in attendance, as well as your financial support, because we know that the financial support really helps our students with scholarships. And so as a staff, we lead the Spring ISD Stampede. We'll be working with all of our campuses and our district administration to make sure that our students have the scholarship money that they need for moving forward. With March being Women's History Month, the timing was perfect for Westfield High School's Pretty Girls Rock Summit, a girls-only crash course on dating violence, social media, and self-esteem that was featured in the Chronicle. So I hope you all had an opportunity to read that story last week. In addition to that, we're monitoring several issues that are being discussed during the legislative session. So those of you that are monitoring federal legislation as well as state legislation, there are some key imperatives that we are really thinking about and looking at. One of those, of course, is school vouchers and school choice, federal funding of title programs, as well as ESSA. And so as we get more information and rulemaking begins, we'll continue to keep you updated. Last month, we paused for one of the videos that highlighted one of our teachers. This month's highlight, we're going to be a little different. We're celebrating the award-winning, nationally recognized STEP team that performed at Twin Creeks Middle School. The three teams, a ladies, young men's, and the co-ed team, have traveled the country representing their school and, of course, Spring ISD. Last year, the boys were city champs, state champs, and ended up ranking 5th in the nation, while the girls' team secured the city and state runner-up spots. They are on track to secure top spots at all of the next competitions coming up. Like other clubs and organizations, the STEP team allows students to learn time management, leadership skills, and presentation skills. The program has also helped build community and enhance the parent engagement at the campus. So right now we're going to pause to watch the video of the Twin Creeks STEP team. Okay. While we're getting that set up, I would like to introduce 4 of their sponsors that are here today. Would Ebony Jenneret please stand? What about LeBrandon Jenkins? Kia Rowland? And Quinetta Dugas. She's not here. On behalf of myself and the board, we want to thank you for all of your countless hours of volunteering to really impact the lives of the students at Twin Creeks. We had an opportunity to see them perform last year at the awards, and you all did an excellent job. So once again, thank you all so much for all that you do. Well, thank God that we passed the bond, because we will be able to address technology. So we won't be able to show that right now, but if they're able to get that up later on, we'll make sure that we show that. So once again, thank you, staff, as well as the principals and leadership team, Ms. Williams, and the principal, Mr. Viota. Thank you so much. That does conclude all of my announcements for today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. Next, I would like to ask if any trustees would like to make remarks.
I have a couple of remarks. First of all, I want to tell Brandon Jenkins, we're going to touch you very well. This past month, I had a chance to go to Austin with the Power One group to be a voice for our legislators about different things that's going on. And this group is basically a group of school board members from across this southern part of our country, our state, such as A-Lee, K-Lee, Katy, Humboldt, and a few other schools. And we had a chance to talk to our legislators about some of the things Dr. Watson just mentioned. And I think on tonight's agenda, we're going to be approving a resolution to become a part of this group. So I want to thank my colleagues for their support. And every time we get the opportunity to be a voice, for public education, I want to be a part of that. Thank you.
Our students are outstanding throughout the state and in many areas. I had an opportunity to travel around the state to see basketball teams for all 3 schools for area and regional competition, all the way to regional finals up in the Dallas area for our Decaney boys and girls team, our Westfield boys, and our spring teams. So I'd like to applaud and congratulate them. We have come very far the last few years in that regional final, all the way making it to state, and I know next year we're going to make to state for one of those teams, but I'd like to congratulate them on a nice season this year.
Just want to remind everybody that state legislature is meeting. They meet every 2 years, and it's extremely important to keep up with what they're doing. And you can certainly, from where you sit, stand, engage your legislators. But there's a whole lot going on with public education, which is good and sometimes not so good. The Senate met today regarding issues around school choice. We're still having discussions about school finance, so it's a very active state legislative session regarding public education. So just keep your antennas up, and we just encourage you to support public education.
Trustee Durant and I had an opportunity to have a visit at Clark Primary School to do Career Day. And I don't think I've ever been through anything like it, because they're little kindergarten and first grade students, and they come through every 15 minutes, and you're telling them about a career. And I'll let you tell about your career, but the one I was with my daughter, who is a scientist and an engineer, so I was having the little kids make paper trusses, and I was so impressed that when I used the word truss, they knew all the letters in the word, and when we looked at the truss, they knew it was a triangle, and then we could build things with the trusses, and just had a wonderful time. I just asked the principal as I left that when she found pieces of colored paper all over her school, please don't think poorly of me. We had a very educational, I think, good time. Trustee Durant?
I actually enjoyed it as well. Those little ones at Clark Primary, they were so excited. And I had an opportunity to speak about healthcare. I work in the healthcare industry. And I kind of pondered that week, how do you talk about healthcare to kindergartners and first graders? But I came up with a little game. So I made pictures of different foods, and I had pizzas and hamburgers, and I made 2 canisters, and I said they got to pull their picture and decide, was this something healthy to eat or unhealthy to eat? And if they put it in the right canister, they got a piece of candy. So they were really excited. Oops. What was funny, I was good. I made sure it wasn't chocolate. But it was really interesting, though, when they drew the pizza or the hamburger, they kind of hesitated because they wanted to say that was good and healthy eating. So we had an opportunity to talk about sometimes it's good, but it's not always healthy. But moderation works, and so they were really delightful, and I had a great time.
Thank you, trustees. We will now continue with tonight's agenda. Our next item is the Spotlight Awards. At this time, I would like to recognize our Chief of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, Dr. Lauren Tobeck. Oh, it's going to be Lupita Hinojosa.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen and members of the board. So this evening, we are spotlighting our students who won the district spelling bee, as well as the secondary students who completed exceptional projects for the Spring ISD Living History Fair in the special category of Women's History. Before we recognize the students, I'd like to recognize the teachers, the coaches, the administrators who led the process on the campus, and the parents for supporting and practicing with our students. So if you would stand, our coaches, our teachers, and our parents, we want to thank you for all the work that you've done. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Jessica Jackson, our elementary ELA curriculum director, Nacarol Dixon, literacy coach from Thompson Elementary, as well as Ms. Kimberly Russell, our secondary social studies curriculum director, and they're going to recognize our students for both categories, for our spelling bee and our history fair winner.
Good evening, President Jensen, Dr. Watson, and the members of the board. We're here for a grand occasion. We're celebrating our annual Spring ISD Spelling Bee winners.
The purpose of our bee is to improve their spelling, increase their vocabularies, learn concepts, and develop correct usage of the English language. Every elementary and middle school campus had their students study the Scripps National Spelling Bee word list, and they held their own campus competitions.
Okay? And so those campus winners and alternates then went on to compete at our district level bee at Dekaney High School. So I'd like to recognize Nacarol Dixon. She did a fabulous job organizing the event and executing. So I just want to give her a hand clap really quickly. I'd also like to recognize some of our judges, Heidi Marcelli, our literacy coach from Smith Elementary, Latasha Jones, the math coach from Thompson Elementary, and our announcer, Gwendolyn Wright from Marshall Elementary School.
At this time, I would like to acknowledge Bethany Johnson, 8th grader at Bamel Middle School, and congratulate her on being our alternate champion. Would anyone from the Bamel Middle School family who's here to represent Bethany Johnson please stand to be recognized?
Well, let's give her a hand clap anyway. Okay, additionally, please welcome our two-time champ, Lucille Rixner. She's a 6th grader at Robertson Middle. We're very, very proud of her. You call Lucille? I just think it's so amazing because this is her second time. So Lucille will be moving on to compete in our regional spelling bee in April, and we wish her lots of luck. We'll wait on our handshakes as Kimberly will now speak about the Living History Fair Week.
Good evening, Dr. Jensen, Dr. Watson, President Jensen, Dr. Watson, and members of the board. History helps us learn who we are, but when we don't know our own history, our power and dreams are immediately diminished. This is a quote from the National Women's History Project. This group initiated the celebration of Women's History Month every March, starting in 1987. This is Spring ISD's 3rd year competing in the National History Day competition. When I was given the opportunity to become the core content director, we did a slow rollout starting in our middle schools. This allowed our middle school students who competed the first year to be experienced once arriving at the high school level. Students were given the opportunity to compete and complete a project in the categories of exhibits, websites, documentaries, and performances, also research papers. And you see some of those examples in the hall on your way in and maybe during the break. Each secondary campus hosted a history fair, a campus history fair in January, and those winners progressed to the district fair, district level, and many of our students present tonight went on to place in our regional fair at Lone Star College recently. From there, many of our students present tonight also will be competing in the state fair, Texas History Day competition at the University of Texas on April 29th. I'm very proud to announce we have a record-breaking number of students progressing to the state level of 33 students. Our first year, competing in the National History Day competition, we had only 7 students that progressed to state, but it was noted that this was an exceptional opportunity and recognition for a district that competed for the first time. Now I'd like to recognize our students who completed exceptional projects in the special topics category of women's history. These students chose topics that highlighted significant women in history, following the National History Day theme of taking a stand in history. So I'm going to go ahead and call those students up. We have from Twin Creeks Middle School, Averill Clark. Zarin Donahue. Demetra Jackson. Valeria Asuna. Adriana Benitez. Cindy Samoran. Isabella Patino. William Dowsey. And Linda Duenos. That's Twin Creeks Middle School.
Good for him.
Present tonight from our Early College Academy, we have Angel Diaz, Desmond Etumu, Miriam Pereira, Autumn Smith, and Brittany Tercios. We also have Nakaya Hudgens. We have some students that could not be present tonight, but we also want to recognize them. From Roberson Middle School, we had Ashley Romero. Also from Twin Creeks, Jasmine Ruiz, Annalise Caudell. From Carl Winchie High School, William Murphy. From Westfield High School, Diana Den, Rachel Wynn, and Joy Ekaruche. Also from Spring High School, Diana Samaran, Hazel Amaya, and Haley Beeler. And I'm sorry, from Early College, I missed someone, but Yadira Carrillo. Would you please come up? All right, so if we could give all these students one last round of applause.
Isn't this exciting? And this is just our 3rd year in the competition. I know that next year we will continue to get better. So President Jensen and members of the board, at this time we would like to ask you to join us in the horseshoe to meet and congratulate our students, our Spelling Bee winner, as well as our History Fair recipients. We want you to congratulate our students and take some pictures with them. We will begin with our Spelling Bee winner up at right at the front. Go all the way through. So we're going to take a picture with our board and our spelling bee winner, and I'd also like to invite the principal and the spelling bee coach come up here, join us.
There's no way Jim's gonna be able to get that one.
Of these characteristics are the sum of many individual decisions. They embody a positive attitude.
Love that Razorback.
The only way to achieve your purpose is to take steps. Pretty good. How you doing?
All right, at this time, I'd like to invite the coaches and the principals that are here for our history fair competition. So come on up, all of our coaches and principals that are here.
You're truly the best.
Hold on a minute, they have a couple.
Bring it back up just a little bit.
One more. No.
Wait, okay, y'all switch. Y'all two switch. All right, this way.
That ladder does not look that.
That's you, Renee. Yeah.
All right. All right, we'll take a couple more here, right here, guys. Very nice. One more.
Hold on, we're taking a couple more pictures.
We're good, thank you.
Lastly, I also want to take a moment to recognize And so at this time, I'd like to ask all of the parents and family members that are here for these students, if you'll please stand. Parents, I know I see Lucille's dad up here. All parents, please stand. So we'll look positive. Thank you very much.
No. 1% at 9. Those kids went back to sit down.
Thank you, Dr. Hinosa.
Can they release those
We're on
kids?
points of pride now. Are there any other changes? Okay. Our next item is the points of pride. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Chief Communications Officer.
Oh. I think.
No? It's going to be Lupita again?
Yes. Well, not for the point.
Lupita, you're a woman of all seasons here.
I'm going to do this spotlight for our tri-club.
Okay.
And just keep them
Okay.
together,
Great.
and then
Yeah.
we'll
That's
do
great.
communications, if that's okay.
Sounds efficient.
Let's do them back to back. All right, so members of the board, tonight we are also spotlighting our very own Spring Tri-Club. As you know, our Spring Tri-Club organization encourages youth to become better students in the development of skills in practical agriculture and homemaking projects through personal achievement and to make better citizens and leaders for our community, state, and the nation through competitive achievement. And we cannot do this without you, your support, and the support of our Spring ISD community. So tonight we're here to invite you to attend our 66th annual Spring Livestock Show and Fair to be held Thursday, April the 6th through Sunday, April the 9th. At this time, I'd like to invite our Director of CTE Programs, Ms. Cynthia Williams, as well as Ms. Marcia Cook, the President of the Spring Tri-Club, to spotlight this year's work and prepare you for our upcoming events. Ms. Williams and Ms. Cook.
Madam President, Dr. Watson, members of the board, tonight we would like to give you an update on our Tri-Club activities and how we are rounding up support for our students. So Marcia Cook, our Tri-Club president, is going to talk about Tri-Club. She's going to talk about Tri-Club, how does it benefit our students, and how you can get involved.
Hello. Hi. Thank y'all for having us. Tri-Club is basically a tax-exempt organization that's made up of volunteers, parents, and advisors from FFA, 4-H, and FCCLA clubs. We have about 24 committees that work year-round preparing and putting on the Spring Livestock Show and Fair, and we meet monthly to network and share the progress and the needs of our committees. We personally handle all the paperwork of registering every project, securing all the judges. We find sponsors for all the buckles and the banners, and we send out all the invitations and beg people to come. We rent the tents to provide shelter for our livestock and our buyers to keep them out of the elements. And we basically do whatever needs to be done to put on a livestock show. I've personally been involved for 13 years as an officer for 8. My son and daughter went through Spring FFA and Spring 4-H, and we have several volunteers whose children have long gone but continue to come back and help with the show. These right here are just a few of our fun events that we have after the hard work of the livestock show is over. The torch cutting contest, if you've never seen it, I can promise you it's a huge draw. The kids love it. The parents love it. They get really excited about it. So it's on the schedule later. If you want to come out, we would love to have you. Our floral design contest is open to any student, and the beautiful arrangements they make, we put on the tables for the buyers later. We have a Pee-wee showmanship that's open to kids that are around 4 to 7, and they can show a goat or a pig. And we also have stick horse races for the really young ones who want to just get out there and run, and that's a really fun event to watch as well. And then, of course, there's everyone's favorite Teach the Teacher, where the kids invite a student or administrator to come out and show their animal and show how hard it looks, that it's a lot harder than it looks. And so that's a big draw, and I also encourage you to come out and see that. It's after work on the Friday of the show. We raise money for scholarships through the sale of cakes at our auction that the clubs provide and that they fundraise at their campuses. And along with other various contributions, we are able to provide each graduating senior that qualifies a scholarship. In the last 5 years, we've given out over $35,000, so that's pretty exciting to us.
Now we will have some of our students to come up and tell you what Tri-Club means to them. And we're going to start with Jordan Ferris, who is an FFA student at Roberson Middle School.
Good evening. I'm Jordan Ferris. I decided to join FFA because I wanted to be part of something. I wanted to be in a group, like a little family. What made me continue year after year was the fact that I'd get to see my friends again and spend 3 days with them during fun and hard, dedicating time. I think other kids should join because it gives them an opportunity to open up and be more social. They can, do the welding. They can have their family join with the Pee-wees. They can do everything that they think they should do. I've learned over the years that it's hard, and raising an animal, it takes time and dedication. And without the lessons I've learned, I don't think I would be standing here, giving a little speech. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we will have two students from Westfield, Isaac Ham and Kayla Perkins. They will tell what FFA means to them.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaac Ham. I'm president of FFA for Westfield High School.
Good afternoon. My name is Kayla Perkins, and I am vice president of FFA.
So we're pretty much just up here to invite you as well to our Tri-Club show. It'll be through April 6th through 7th, and then April 8th will be our auction day. The money we get from these projects will go towards our fundings for our classes to get more materials to build stuff or raise our animals.
As far as raising animal goes, I am raising broilers, which are chickens, if you do not know. And the day that I show my chickens is actually April 7th, so if you guys want to come out, it's a Friday. And I would love for you guys to join me and see me in action.
I myself will be presenting a ag project. I will be constructing. Pretty much I will be auctioning the project to go towards colleges, funds, and other materials to build more stuff.
I want to I want to tell you guys what FFA is. FFA is Future Farmers of America, and it's more than farming. You can do more than farming. It's culinary, photography, welding, as Isaac is in, and it's an organization where kids do what they love. As far as me, I love animals, so I chose chickens. And if you have a passion that you really want to pursue, FFA is the right program to actually be in.
As my vice president has mentioned, it's not just about farming, it's also about welding and other stuff. Pretty much everything in life revolves around agriculture. There's nothing out here that's not, related to agriculture. So, agriculture to me in a way has helped me in many ways. It has helped me inspired to do more things in life than just what I thought I wanted to do when I was in middle school. Opened up my options in other ways to do things in life, new opportunities, and, other things to do in my life.
I really want to thank you guys for listening to us. I hope you join us. Oh, okay. Well, here's his boat days. But I hope you guys come out to our show. We would love to see you guys there. It would really mean a lot to us, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we will have one of our alumni from Spring High School, Aislinn Shuton, to come and talk about what FFA has been in her life.
Hi guys, thanks for letting me speak tonight. My name is Aislinn Scouten, but it's okay. It's okay. Alright, so Spring Tri Club has taught me a lot of things. One of them being to learn how to ask people for help. I still use it to this day with my professors, constantly asking for help in math and biology. It's one of the hardest subjects for me for some reason. Tri Club has not only taught me how to ask for help, but it's also taught me responsibility. Because when you're raising an animal, you have to be responsible for that animal. It's like having a child without having a child. I mean, I gotta get up early in the morning, and I get up to get to the barn, and then you gotta feed them, and you gotta check on them all day. You have to work with them, you gotta wash them and stuff. So, let me point it out. Gotcha. It's also taught me to compete with my friends. So through Tri Club, you meet people from many different schools. I'm from Spring High School. I don't go there anymore, but yeah. So I met people from Westfield, from Winchie, from Dekaney. Actually, one of my best friends, his name is Cheyenne, and she's from Winchie. So I didn't actually get to compete with her, but I also got to, technically I did. She did rabbits for a year. But it taught me to open up my eyes and see other people, to work with other people, not just to stay in like a bubble. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last year, our numbers were $134,000. We had a little over $86,000 in our live auction, $9,575 in our silent auction, $25,000 in private auction, and over $12,000 in add-ons. This total is actually about $11,000 less than 2015, so we are hoping that we can get our numbers back up again this year. As the kids mentioned, our show's coming up April 6th and 7th. We start checking in livestock 2 weeks from tomorrow, which means there's about to be a flurry of activity, and with everybody, and the anxiety level is already going up with the exhibitors, the advisors, the volunteers, and we're just, anticipating that everything's going to go okay. We hope to see you guys there. I just wanted to also remind you we have over 190 livestock entries and over 290 arts and crafts projects. Wow. And that means we hope to sell every one of those. So we need support from the board, administrators, and all of our Spring ISD community. So we thank you for letting us come tonight, and we also want to give a special thank you to Ms. Williams for always being here to support us.
Thank you, Marcia. Before I take my seat, I'd like to acknowledge the parents. Would you please stand? And Tri Club members. We also have some teachers, Ms. Alford and Mr. Heiser. Our other teachers are at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo with some of our students. And would our other FFA students please stand? And again, our students have a small token for our board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming back. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, thank you. But before you leave, Ms. Cook, if you will stand just a moment. Hi there. My husband is a product of FFA and an admirer and lover. As a result, we have a small farm outside of Houston. And I have talked to my colleague, Ms. Gonzalez, about donating a calf. And I would like to donate a calf to a deserving student of your choice for the 2018 livestock show and hope that it will be a grand champion for you.
And
Quite welcome.
I have one more teacher I forgot to acknowledge, Ms. Zimmerman. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gonzalez, did you want to?
Just wanted to echo Ms. Cook's sentiments. It's a great program. My son also went through 4-H and FFA. He's been he graduated in 2011, and I'm still serving on that board. It's a wonderful program, and Ms. Williams does a great job leading our organization, helping us, and I want to thank Dr. Watson, the administration, for allowing us to continue these programs and our livestock show. It really teaches our students a lot: time management, money management. My son was able to pay for almost 2 years worth of college from the proceeds he won over the years for livestock. So again, thank you, Spring ISD, for allowing this program to continue. And thank you, students and parents, for coming out and sharing your story with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, wherever you are. For our next items, I'd like to recognize our Chief Communications Officer, Tiffany Dunn Oldfield.
Good evening, President Jensen, Dr. Watson, and esteemed members of the board. For our first, we have 3 recognitions this evening, 3 very special board recognitions this evening. And for this portion of the recognitions, I would like to invite the board down to the horseshoe. And if I can have President Jensen and Dr. Watson over here to the right. For our first recognition this evening, I'd like to invite Mr. Thomas Woods, Dekaney High School head athletic trainer, up to the podium. In addition to Mr. Woods' outstanding efforts on behalf of Spring ISD student athletes, he has been recently honored by his peers as an exemplar of his profession. In the years since its founding in 1950, the National Athletic Trainers Association, NATA, has served as a professional hub and advocacy group for certified athletic trainers both in the U.S. and worldwide. With more than 43,000 active members, the group works to strengthen and support the athletic training profession and its practitioners. In addition to setting and maintaining standards related to education, certification, professionalism, and athletic training best practices, NATA also recognizes athletic trainers whose contributions deserve a little extra credit through its annual Honors and Awards program. Each year, awardees are nominated directly by their colleagues, fellow NATA members, and are recognized for dedicated service to others, along with an ongoing commitment to the field of athletic training. This year, our very own Mr. Woods was the recipient of the prestigious 2017 NATA Athletic Trainer Service Award. As a result of this recognition, we're happy to extend our congratulations and thank Mr. Woods with the Spring ISD Board of Trustees Points of Pride recognition. We have your recognition to the NATA organization brings honor and prestige to Spring ISD, and we are very privileged to award you our Board of Trustees Points of Pride Award. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to take this opportunity to say how much I appreciate the support that we have in our endeavors to take care of our youngsters. Our administration, of course, Mr. David Baxter, our building principal, Mr. William Amendola, our Director of Athletics, and our campus athletic coordinator, Coach Anthony Williams. These folks are people who really have the health and welfare of our kids at heart. And when you have people like that you work with, it makes our job just that much easier. And so I also want to say here publicly to thank you for the opportunity to work in Spring ISD, to serve our young student athletes, and to serve our community at large. I thank you.
President Jensen, Dr. Watson, if you can come back over here. We have 2 more awards. For our next set of recognitions, we turn to Spring High School's Navy JROTC program, which is celebrating a few important milestones of its own. I'd like to now invite the program's lead instructor, Captain James Boyer, up to the podium for the first recognition. I'd also like to invite Captain Boyer's incredible team up to the podium. Senior Chief Joseph Reynolds, who started the program with Captain Boyer in 2001. Gunnery Sergeant Andre Gilchrist, the Marine in the group. Chief Douglas Doc Watson, an independent duty corpsman, a.k.a. the doctor in the field for the team. And Chief Martin Horner, the team's expert on military benefits and the youngest member of the team. If I can ask you guys to turn and face the board for the recognition right now. As many of you know, we recently learned that the Spring High School Spring High School JROTC 2016-2017 regiment has been recognized as the largest in Texas and the 5th largest open enrollment program nationwide. With its strong commitment to both community and national service, the Spring area has long supported military programs and JROTC activities. But the size of the Spring Regiment is due to the strong leadership of the team you see before you this evening. Whether or not students go on to serve in the military, those who get involved in the Navy JROTC program at Spring High School know they will be pushed to grow stronger in both body and mind, and to develop themselves as students and as human beings. Our young people know a good thing when they see it, and they recognize in the JROTC program the opportunity to develop strength of character, fortitude, and perseverance, traits that will serve them well. In addition, Spring High School's JROTC candidates know that they will have strong advocates and mentors in this team. who know that will go the extra mile for them to help them succeed. The fact that graduates of this program have collectively been offered more than $37 million in college scholarships since 2005 probably doesn't hurt either. The district is extremely proud of the distinction of having the largest regiment in Texas and the 5th largest open enrollment program in the nation. But we're even more proud of the outstanding qualities of this unit and the way that it exists at heart to serve our young people. Congratulations to Captain Boyer and his team on this Texas-sized distinction. No, you walk the podium. We're going to take a photo. Congratulations.
Congratulations. You stay for Mr. Tour Guide. You got to get congratulations.
Dr. Watson slide down and Chris Bill slide in.
Thank you again. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'm going to ask you to stay right here.
Congratulations.
Okay. In addition to the Group Point of Pride recognition awarded to our Spring High School JROTC leadership team, several of our cadets are here tonight to be individually recognized for their accomplishments during the recent Super State Navy JROTC Championship competition at Texas A&M University. I'll let Captain Boyer tell you more about these cadets and what happened, but I'll give you a little hint. It involved standing at attention for more than half an hour in short-sleeve uniforms on a nearly 40-degree February morning in College Station. I'm going to go ahead and let Captain Boyer tell you more about it.
Okay. Well, thank you. We went up to Texas A&M, and we call it a super state competition because in the ROTC community, the rest of the United States, it's normally 5 to 10 states, and they'll compete individually in those states, and then they'll go to one special super state competition. Well, Texas is Texas, so we're kind of like our own, really kind of like our own nation here in own area. So we have a super state competition. In any case, our cadets qualified for it. We went up to Texas A&M. And, of course, it was a nice, pleasant February morning when we started off the inspection. And as Tiffany said, Kyle's back there in the khaki uniform with the short sleeves. We were one of the very first folks, so it was extra chilly. And I'm going to say, I came out and I was in my uniform, but I had a sweater and a jacket over the sweater, and I was still shaking and shivering. So they did a great job up there. Really have been performing all year long in a lot of activities. So I'd like to call, and they're being recognized because they had a perfect score on the personnel inspection, which is pretty phenomenal, especially since they're standing out there They're being asked all sorts of questions, current events, you name it, and their uniform also is being inspected. Everything on their, excuse me, has to be perfect. And the folks that are inspecting and asking the questions, let's just say that their demeanor is not a very cordial demeanor when they're doing that inspection. So with that, I'd like to kind of call them up one at a time if I could. And the first, doing it in alphabetical order, Chandler Bennett. Okay. Chandler happens to be a junior. He's not wearing his Cadet of the Year cord. He has a big white cord. So last year he was the Cadet of the Year. Chandler's on a number of teams: color guard, academics, PT, pretty much just about everything. I'm going to say he definitely stands out in several areas, and one of them happens to be academic. So very pleased with that. Next person is Emily Brower. Emily will come up. She's a sophomore, and she's also over at Carl Wenshie High School. Her sister Julia, her twin, is back there. And we play a little game as to who's the good twin, okay, every day. But Emily has on the unarmed drill team, has been on the color guard, has been on academics and on PT, and pretty much everything. And again, I'm going to say she excels in the academics, so she's done an outstanding job as well. Next person is Jasper Enriquez. Jasper's a sophomore. He's on the armed drill team, rifle team, PT, and he happens to be the armory officer, and that's where we keep a lot of our equipment, rifles, drill rifles, and other things, and so he's kind of been in charge of that. He's been doing a really super job this year. Jayla Jones. Jayla is a senior. She's our operations officer, which means she's number 3. She's on the academic team, the PT team, unarmed drill team, has done pretty much just about everything, and right now we're kind of waiting and hoping that she gets an ROTC scholarship up to Prairie View A&M. So we've been working that. The next individual is Captain Courtney Lundquist. She's the commanding officer. She is also Cadet of the Year in her sophomore year, and you can see that white cord. So there's not a team that she hasn't been on. There's not a team that she hasn't excelled on. And I'm going to say she's one of those individuals that makes me want to come to school. So, congratulations. And we're working, hopefully, on a scholarship, well, actually a Naval Academy appointment, so we're working on that. Kyle Shea. Come on up, Kyle. So as we're talking about, and we were talking about how cold it was, this was the actual uniform that they were standing in when it was 40, I'm going to say, and that's probably being generous with the temperature, and the wind was blowing nice and strong up there in the quad with the Corps of Cadets. So, and Kyle did an outstanding job up there. He's on the armed drill team, has done PT, done rifle. So he's just, and he's a freshman, so he's doing actually super outstanding. So congratulations, Kyle. Okay, next we have Tamara Stroh. Okay, she's a junior. And although you might think that she looks a little bit small, let me tell you, on the PT team, she's won a number of medals on the PT team, academic team, unarmed drill team, color guard. So she kind of does just about everything as well. She's a super outstanding individual. Okay, and last, but certainly not least, is our Command Master Chief, Elson Torres. So again, I'm going to say Elson has done just about everything: academic, PT, rifle, color guard, you name it. He's done it, and he's done it at the highest level. He's a senior, and he's also a Marine wannabe. Okay, he's stepped in, so after graduation, he's going into the Marine Corps. So congratulations.
We have one last photo and a last congratulations to our Spring Navy JROTC. And we're going to take one large photo with Captain Boyer in the photo too with our Board of Trustees.
Very good, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, come on, Barry.
All right, here we go, guys. Nice smiles, everybody. Right here, right here. Here we go. Very good, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
President Jensen, that concludes our recognition portion of the meeting this evening.
And Dr. Jensen, I'd like to say I was third in command in ROTC in high school, and so it was. I appreciate the time and the discipline and the skills and knowledge that I learned by being in JROTC. So I want to thank these guys. My son was fortunate to be under Captain Davis for a while at Westfield, and I think ROTC, it certainly was extremely beneficial for me. I have lifelong friends from my affiliation with it, so thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you, Ms. Den Oldfield. For our next items, I think we're having you back. Our Chief Communications Officer, Tiffany Den Oldfield.
thank you. And we're going to move on, as you know, to a very important topic this evening, our attendance boundary review process, which we've been working on since December. I want to walk through a little bit and tell you a little bit how we're going to approach the presentation of the information this evening. We're going to start out with our survey results, and we have K-12 Insight here with us this evening. After that, I'm going to come back up, and I'm going to provide an overview presentation, walking you through the process. Then we're going to, as a district administration, we're going to present our final recommendations, and we've also invited 8 committee members here that will actually swap places with our cabinet members to provide some comments, but most importantly, to address any questions that you have about the committee process. And that'll be how we present the information this evening. And with that, I'll be turning the floor over to Shelby McIntosh from K-12 Insight. Shelby is the managing director at K-12 Insight. She actually manages the entire Southwest region for K-12 Insight. She's a former educator, a former teacher, and she has a PhD in education policy from George Mason University. And she's going to walk you through the survey that we did to get community input, which was one component of the community input that we got on the attendance boundary process. She's going to walk you through that, and then I'll walk you through some of the other components in my overview presentation. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to Dr. McIntosh.
Good evening, Dr. Watson, Dr. Jensen, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. We're very proud of our relationship with Spring ISD, and it's my honor to walk you through these survey results. It should take me about 10 minutes to get through the survey results, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I'll start by giving you just an overview of the project and then some details about the survey. All this information was presented to survey participants at the front of the survey. It just gives a little bit of background about the attendance boundary review process, the reasons for the review, and the reasons why the school district was asking for community input. In addition, this is some background of this project in particular. So the survey was open from February 14th to the 28th. It's a 2-week survey window, which is our standard practice for a survey of this nature. Participants were invited to participate through individually emailed invitations that included a link to the survey. There was also a link posted on the district website, as well as on Elevate. We sent out email reminders to anyone who had not yet participated in the survey on February 21st, 24th, and 27th. The report that I'm going to walk you through now summarizes the survey results at a high level, but then we also break them down by a variety of subgroups. It's important to remember that we did not do a representative sample. We wanted anyone who had an opinion that they wanted to express or who wanted to participate in the survey to have an opportunity to do so. So as a result, the results here reflect just the opinions and perspectives of those who chose to take the survey. So information about who did choose to participate. As you can see here, we sent out just over 15,500 invitations to take the survey, and the majority of the responses came from those invitations. There were another 178 individuals who responded to the survey through the public link that was posted on the website, with a total number of respondents being 1,583 participants. Now, we say that that is approximately a 10% participation rate, and that's based on the number of invitations that we sent out, which is why we say that it's approximate. This was not a surprising participation rate for surveys that we've done of this nature. This is pretty standard. In fact, we did a very similar survey for a peer district here in the area, and the participation was about 9%. So it's along the lines of what we're seeing with this kind of work. Another note that you'll see in regards to who took the survey, 94% of those who took the survey said that they are parents of children currently enrolled in Spring ISD schools. So almost all of them. Another point here, you see that 60% say that they were residents of the community. That doesn't mean that the other 40% were not. That was just that 60% said that they were. They may have been parents who only selected that answer option. They could choose as many applied to them here. Another point about participation, we asked them how long they had lived within Spring ISD. To get a sense of who we were hearing from, you certainly want to know if there is a particular group or part of the community that is overrepresented in any of the survey responses. So we're showing you that we got quite a bit of variety in terms of tenure or amount of time that they had lived here in Spring. And then also we asked them their child's primary method of commuting between home and school, again, to get a sense of who we were hearing from, and also to break down some of the survey responses if needed. This is the participation by school. You can see that the bolded schools here, we're just looking at elementary schools here, were the most represented schools in terms of those who participated within the survey. Oftentimes we see higher participation from schools that are directly impacted by the proposals. And this is what it looks like when we look at the secondary schools. So just to read the top line there, you can see that 25% of those who participated said that they had a child at Spring High School. So I'm going to get into the actual survey results now. We asked about levels of support for each of the 4 proposals that currently exist as part of the ABR process. I'll show you what those levels of support look like looking at all participants, as well as those who are quote-unquote specifically impacted by that proposal, and then I'll explain how we defined impact as we go through each of them. So we'll start with the elementary school proposal. The question was, please rate your level of support for this proposal, and you'll see it's a 5-point scale there, where 1 was do not support, and 5 was I fully support. That 3 there, which actually should be a light shade of green, it looks more white on this screen, but it is defined as somewhat support. And we looked into some of the open-ended responses to get a sense of why they might choose somewhat support and whether that means do they support it or do they not support it. Oftentimes they would choose this response when they support it, but they just need a little bit more information before they're ready to say, I fully support it. And conversations with the committee as well, which I'm sure they'll tell you later, a lot of them felt like this response meant to them, I may not love it, but I can live with it. So as you're looking at this scale here, keep that in mind if you're wondering to yourself what a 3 might mean on that scale. If you're looking at the elementary school responses here, you can see that 84% said that they support this proposal to some extent when we're looking at all participants. When we look at impacted participants, 72% said that they support it to some extent. Impacted participants on the elementary school side were defined by those who said that their children are directly impacted by this proposal, as well as they also had to say that their child attended one of the schools where either they're sending children to that school as part of this proposal, or children are coming to their school as part of this proposal. So if they fit those qualifications there, they were part of this filter, which you can see was just 63 participants. So when you're looking at that 72% there, that's of those 63 participants defined as impacted. We also asked them reasons or factors that impact their level of support, and we wanted to show you those broken down by those who said they supported this and those who said that they didn't. When we look at those, the over 1,000, a little over 1,100 individuals who said that they support this proposal specifically, factors that they cited for their support, just generally stating that they support it, that they liked how close they are to their current school, they felt like the proposal was in line with the strategic plan, those sorts of responses. On the non-supporter side of the 210, and again, we're looking at all of them, all participants, not just those that were directly impacted, referenced reasons like being close to their current school, which you'll see in the open-ended comments at the end of the presentation, liking the staff at their current school, citing some transportation challenges as well. Now we're looking at the short-term middle school proposals. This is the first of the 2 middle school proposals. When we look at all participants at the top bar there, you can see that 79% said that they support that proposal to some degree. And then when we look at impacted participants, which are those who said that their child is directly impacted as well as they attend either an elementary or a middle school, then they fell into this category as being impacted. And you can see those were 273 participants. So of those, again, 65% said that they support this proposal. Looking at the factors related to or relative to that decision of supporting or not supporting, if you look at the supporters on the left, very similar to what we saw with the elementary proposal, feeling that it's in line with the strategic plan, just supporting the proposal in general. And if we look on the right-hand side, we see similar factors, except we see that I don't like the feeder pattern jump up to the top. You'll see that as we get higher in the school level, getting closer to the high school proposal. This is what the support for the long-term proposal looks like. If we look at all participants, 80% said that they support the proposal to some degree, so slightly higher than the short-term plan. Remember, this was the plan that had the school choice option in it. If we looked at impacted participants, 318 that fell in that category here, 68% said that they support this to some extent. Looking at the reasons for that is very similar to the other middle school proposal. You see the feeder pattern factor on the non-supporter side, supporting it in general on the supporter side, feeling like the proposal is in line with the strategic plan. And then also you see that extra factor in, I like the idea of school of choice at Bailey Middle School was frequently selected as well among supporters. The last proposal here, and then I'll give you a sense of what some of the open-ended comments looked like. When we look at all participants, let's see, 75% said that they supported this proposal. When we look at impacted participants, which for the high school level was just anyone who said their kids would be directly impacted, 55% said that they supported this. So about 516 in the impacted group and 55% of them saying they support it. Looking at the factors, on the left-hand side, it looks very similar. They like the proposed changes. They like or they feel that the proposals are in line with the strategic plan. They like the improvement to the feeder patterns. And of course, the distance to the school comes up again. On the right-hand side, dissatisfaction with the feeder pattern pops up again, like we saw with the middle school proposals, liking their distance to their current school and citing transportation challenges as well. So I mentioned that we did an analysis from open-ended comments. Now there were several opportunities for them to provide open-ended comments. After every question where we asked their level of support, we asked them to explain that, as well as an open-ended question at the end that asked for some general comments. So we looked at those comments across the entire survey and did a theme analysis. Now, I think a word of caution I'll give you about this is to not think of this in terms of quantifying it. Usually people who respond to open-ended comments are those that have very impassioned views. So either they support it to a very strong degree or they hate it to a very strong degree. So we don't quantify those and say, well, there were X amount that gave positive comments and X amount that said negative comments, because those numbers can be very misleading. But what we do find very valuable is the content of what they said. So the first theme that you see there is those that express support for the boundary changes. Most of these participants cited a reason of feeling like it would relieve overcrowding or possibly reduce class sizes. So that was, by and large, the biggest theme that came out of those comments that said that they support it. When we looked at the comments that expressed less support for these proposals, the reasons were varied. So you see quite a few of them listed there, which again doesn't imply that there were more. There were just different reasons when we looked at those. The first one that's listed there cited the distance between their home and their school. Transportation challenges came in as well. The next one you see there had to do with the concern over the quality of school that their child would be going to, obviously the new school that they would be going to. They expressed, some of them felt like it actually wouldn't alleviate overcrowding or were concerned that the class sizes would get larger. And then the last theme that we saw had to do with transition, especially among parents that have kids that either are about to make a transition to a new school level, like about to go into middle school from elementary or about to go into high school from middle school. The remaining comments were from people who expressed no opposition or no support for any of the one proposals. Either they said they just didn't have an opinion because they wouldn't be directly impacted, or they commented about something not related to a condensed boundary review process in the open comments section. And that concludes our presentation of the report, so I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Again, it looks like, did you have more responders for high school?
Right, yeah, and it's hard to say because they could have kids in high school and middle school and elementary school actually. But the elementary school that had the highest percentage was 7%. But again, there's more elementary schools. So it's hard to say. It's just spread out more over the middle schools. But we certainly had more references to the high school change in the comments. So that's certainly a safe assumption to make. And as I said, looking at the high school or the secondary participation, 25% of them have a child at Spring High School. Turn it back over to
I guess I'm surprised at the people who said the non-supporters who said they'd like to be close to their current school. Because when I looked at the feeder patterns, it seemed that there was a systemic effort across the district to get people fairly near, have neighborhood schools, especially for the elementaries.
Yes, absolutely. We'll walk through some of that. I do think that when people, and some of the response, we do have some distances that increase, but we also have some distances that shorten. So I would be curious, we do have, and I think there is some balance. We were very focused on feeder patterns and really looking at how we could create strong feeder patterns in the district. But from a distance, we do have some communities that will see a slight increase in distance, but we also have many communities that will see a decrease. So there could be those that might see a slight increase answering in that way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to the second portion of the presentation this evening, which is the overview presentation, reminding all of us of the process since December, and then presenting our final recommendations, and then allowing you to talk with our committee members and ask them questions about the process. So I'm going to do a recap really quickly on the process. I'm going to walk through the community input because, again, like I said, the community survey was one piece of the community input and how we sought community input and how we made sure that our community was aware of the boundary changes. Then I'm going to address some important items for consideration. We're going to talk about the improvement to the feeder patterns that we were able to establish with the proposal that's being presented this evening. Then I'm going to walk through the final boundary recommendations. Then we'll have the time for discussion. And then we will talk about next steps. So just as a reminder, we do, and we'll look at it on our next slide, is we have over the last decade, we have seen growth in some areas and we have seen decline in areas, which is natural for most school districts. We see some of our communities have aging populations producing less student yields in some communities and other communities where we've seen an influx of students. What's that resulted in is we have some schools that are operating over capacity, over their building utilization, their desired building utilization. And we have other schools within the districts that have space and have capacity in their building to accommodate more students. So the focus of the process, as you know, after coming out of the bond in November, we really started in December with this charge of looking comprehensively at all of our schools and thinking about the new buildings that would be coming on board with our bond, but thinking about how we can make sure that we're utilizing our buildings to the best of our capability across the district. And so that was the process that kicked off in December. This is what we call our red light, green light, and it's kind of our starting point for the entire process. You can see this is, all of our utilization rates are available on our website, on the attendance boundary review portion of our website. But this is really the starting point for our conversations. As you can see here, we have some elementaries, like Clark here is at 130% building utilization. We have other schools very close to them, like Heritage, that's operating well under 70% building utilization. You can see the same in our middle schools. We had several middle schools, particularly Bammel and Wells, operating well over building utilization, yet we had space and do it. So this was our challenge, was to look at our schools in preparation for some of the projects coming on for the bond, and to look at how we could balance out our capacity levels at our schools. The nice part about our high schools here, as you can see, our high schools are all in red, but one of the beautiful things about our bond is that the ninth grade centers are coming, and we're going to be in a really nice spot from building utilization, but wanting to plan and to think about that and think about how with the ninth grade centers coming on board, but to think about our boundaries too as well in this process. So the goal.
Question, I don't see Roberson on the middle schools.
So our schools of choice, you can see here in the high schools,
Yeah.
we have it on our red light, green light report. We don't because we control the enrollment levels at our schools of choice. So when we look at today, when we talk about, and the numbers that you see often on utilization, when we talk about, we are modeling out our middle school numbers, and our projections include modeling out for our schools of choice, but we don't include them on our red light, green light report here because we control the number of students that are enrolled in those schools. So they're static enrollments, we control that enrollment. So the goals and objectives you see here. So back in December, we developed these goals and objectives with feedback that Dr. Watson gave us, particularly around the conversations from the retreat you had in, I think it was December. And so when we look at this, there's several I just want to highlight. So to keep our strategic plan top of mind. And when we get to the school of choice, a new addition of a school of choice at our middle school, this was a really important component, was an exciting component for our teams to look at. But this was, from our strategic plan, was how can we offer more choice through this process too as well as we look at our middle schools. As you can see here, though, and looking from the red light, green light report, balancing out our elementary campus, really providing relief to those campuses that were overcrowded. And that's particularly is Bammel, Clark, and Hoyland Elementary. We really wanted to focus on providing relief to those three elementaries. You can see here is balancing out our middle schools, again, trying to provide relief to Bammel and Wells Middle School by utilizing the capacity that was available at Dewitt Middle School. But we also wanted in this conversation to look at establishing our future middle school boundaries, really anticipating and preparing for our new middle school in the north so that our families could prepare and see where the boundary would be as well. When we started this process, and I think this is a really important point to reinforce, is we knew we wanted to look at our high school boundaries. But in a attendance boundary review process, you start with your elementaries, you start with your middle schools. When we got to our middle schools, and particularly with the new middle school in the north and the new middle school of choice, or the school within a school of choice at Bailey, we saw an opportunity in our high schools when we started to lay out and to look at feeder patterns. So initially in our goals and objectives, and we shared these goals and objectives at all our planning team meetings, we opened with these goals and objectives, and at all our committee meetings, we opened with these goals and objectives. But I know an important goal and objective for everyone was to establish clear feeder patterns. And the configuration of the district, that butterfly configuration that we all know, we've always heard it's almost impossible to have clean, clear feeder patterns in this district. So we were really pleased when we laid out our middle school boundaries. When we saw the opportunity, we saw clean, clear feeder patterns start to establish from our middle schools to our high schools. I think we would have been able to accomplish more in the proposal that's being presented than we initially thought at the beginning. But we kept these goals and objectives, and as I get to both our planning team and to our committee, we always started our meetings with these goals and objectives. And of course, the last one is to use natural boundaries where possible. So there was two components to the structure of this process. We had our ABR planning team, which was a 24-member cross-functional group, really bringing those expert lenses here within the district to talk about and meet weekly. We were meeting weekly from the kickoff. As soon as we came back from the winter break, we started meeting weekly, often meeting in smaller groups 4 to 5 times a week. Our external demographer, who is here with us this evening, Rocky Gardner from Templeton Demographic, he's the VP of Operations there, was very involved in helping us with the scenarios in the planning team and was considered a member of the planning team, often participating with us over the phone, often being here in person too as well. I would like to take a moment. So we have 24 internal staff members. We had performing and visual arts participate, athletics, and we had all of our assistant soups Our cabinet participated on the planning team. Our cabinet doesn't have to stand, but they can raise their hand if they're a member of the planning team. But I would like to recognize the additional members of our planning team. If you could stand if you're in the audience. I know Ms. Fontenot in the back was a member too, and our principals you can see in the back too as well. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And before I move on to the committee, I do want to recognize, and I know I recognized in my last, when we were presenting the proposals for community input, but I would be remiss if I did not recognize Ms. Joanne Elmore from our transportation department, one of our route coordinators, and Keith Kopp is our director of transportation. They were instrumental in this process. So this group was meeting weekly, was really going through the scenarios, was really looking at the data and the numbers and enrollment and all of the geocoding and all of that interesting information that our demographers give us, and starting to think about scenarios and options to bring to the committee. The committee is a 15-member cross-section of both external stakeholders as well as internal stakeholders. We invited 18 principals to participate on the committee, representing different geographic areas and different levels of the district. And we also had 30 to 32 external stakeholders, being parents, being community members, business partners as well. Based on some conversations that we did have with other districts that have recently gone through boundary changes, we did invite, I think it was 5 to 7 members that are involved with the district but don't necessarily have children in the district. This was highly recommended to us because boundary changes, people are always sensitive and passionate about boundary changes, so it was highly recommended. We worked closely with the Chief of Staff at Fort Bend and recommended this, is that you also have some objective lenses in the meeting too as well. So we were very pleased to have that nice balance in our committee, but lots of parents and lots of principals as well. We had 5 two-hour meetings, and the dates are provided here. And again, Templeton Demographics was instrumental with our committee as well. And I will ask our committee members, and we have several that are going to come up, and you're going to be able to ask questions to in a second, but I would like to ask our committee members to please stand as well. So this is the timeline. I presented this in my last presentation, but it has lots of important information. So our planning team, again, meeting weekly at a minimum, sometimes meeting 3 to 4 times a week, starting in January through March. And then you can see here in orange, which are the committee meetings. So on February 2nd, our committee approved the scenarios that would be taken for community input. For the middle school scenarios and then the elementary and high schools, they approved. And those scenarios, those proposals that our committee approved, then we brought to you on February 9th and talking about how we were then going to go out to the community to get additional input. You know, we did 4 community meetings to get additional input too as well, holding 2 on February 16th, both at Dewitt and Wells Middle School, and then on February 23rd at Twin Creeks and Bammel Middle School. We were also with our survey running from February 13th to the 24th, and then we had a meeting bringing back the survey results and talking with our committee on Monday, March 6th, and our committee then approved the recommendations that we're bringing to you tonight, which is, of course, March 21st. So additional context that I think is important, and then we talk about the attendance boundaries. There's exciting stuff with our bond coming forward, and we want to always bring that context into our attendance boundary discussion. At the elementary, we don't have any new facilities, as you know. Well, no, our last bonds were really focused on our elementaries, and our current bond is very focused on our secondary schools. But we were very focused on balancing out our elementary capacity levels, and the proposed changes for our elementaries are designed to take effect next school year, 2017-2018. Of course, at our middle school level, we have a new middle school campus in the north, which we're very excited about. We have a new facility for Robertson Middle School coming on board. Of course, our focus was to balance out, mentioning that we wanted to really look at how we could relieve the overcrowding at Bammel and Wells, by utilizing the capacity that we have at Do It. And you will see in our middle school proposal that we have near-term changes to take effect next school year, and long-term changes would take effect in 2020-21. It's really important that note here, though, that when we have the two, the near-term and the long-term for our middle school, no middle school community will change twice. You either change in the near term or you change in the long term. So no middle school community will change twice, even though we have near-term and long-term middle school boundary changes. And of course, for our high schools, is to prepare for our 3 ninth grade centers that would be coming on board. And the high schools really wanting to get ahead and have conversations. We're 3 years in advance that we're thinking about the boundary changes for our high schools. We know that boundary changes for high schools can often be sensitive and difficult, but we wanted to be having these conversations with our community 3 years in advance of those changes so that we could also be planning well in advance. This breaks it out a little bit differently, showing you year by year, 2017, 2018, the elementary boundaries. The only the boundaries that we're proposing for elementaries would take effect next year if approved. Our near term for middle school would be again next year. And then here you can see some of the new facilities that are coming on board. The new Robertson Middle School is currently planned for 2019, 2020, and the new Dekaney High School is planned for 2019, 2020. And I know our chief operations officer has talked a little bit, but there's a domino effect with some of the buildings. The Dekaney site is clean, and we can get that moving forward. But when we look at Spring and Westfield, of course, Westfield, we need to get our new Robertson Middle School in place and the students out of the current facility before we can start the renovations for Westfield. And for Spring, we need to get the all-district stadium traffic out of Spring before we can start Spring. So we have a little bit different timing currently planned for our ninth grade centers. And exciting, of course, is our new middle school in the north for 2020. So as we looked at these new facilities coming on board was the opportunity to put the boundary, the proposed boundaries in effect, of course, if approved in 2020-21, coinciding with the new facilities for our students. So community input. As I mentioned, the survey was one component of the community input, and I'd like to walk through the different ways that we communicated and made sure that our community was aware of the boundary changes, aware of the opportunities that they could provide input. So I hope you visited our webpage. We have lots of information, just like with the bond. We'd rather provide more information and to layer the information for those people who want all of it, or those people who just want a glance at the most important details. So we have had analytics, and this is about a week and a half old, but we have had 7,000 page views. Our most popular page was proposed boundaries, and our least popular page has been the process, the part that I walked through. I think people want to go straight to the boundaries and see the information. But you can see here to the right all of the information that we've been providing to our community. So informational meetings. As soon as we met with you with the proposed boundaries for community input, we kicked off informational meetings. We have held lunch and learns here at Central Administration, inviting any staff that wants to come. We provided sodas and cookies. They had to bring their own sack lunch, but we had a great turnout for both of our lunch and learn meetings, walking them through the proposed boundary changes and answering any questions that they would have. I also went out personally to all of our secondary campuses and several of our elementaries, spending an hour to an hour and a half with our leadership teams, again, answering any questions that they would have so that they would be able to answer any questions that their parents would have. Lastly, for our community, we presented to our Parent Advisory Council. We also presented to our Ministerial Alliance, and this one was a wonderful one, coordinated by Family and Community Engagement. We presented to a full house out at our learning center of apartment managers and realtors. I think it was easily 60 people out to listen to information about the boundary proposal. So for encouraging participation in the survey, letting people know about our community meetings, of course, we used Facebook, Twitter, we used our app, as well as Blackboard Connect, which is our email to all our parents and our database for our parents, making sure and sending lots of reminders about the community meetings and lots of reminders about the ability to participate in our survey. through these channels. These are just two articles that covered the boundary changes. We had an article in Community Impact and an article in the Houston Chronicle. We had two other online articles, but in both, I think it's important to note that they both reference the community meetings and they both reference the survey. So hopefully some of our community members were able to find out additional information through these two good media channels. So community meetings here, I have the counts here for you. So we had our 4 community meetings. Our most well-attended community meeting was DeWitt Middle School, and followed closely behind by Twin Creeks in Bammel. And then you can see here some of the common themes, and I think you heard this too in the K-12 presentation. We have some definitely concerns about the current Spring High School zone being rezoned to Delaney High School. There was, people would come up and definitely say, I really like the feeder pattern. I really like the feeder patterns. People like the idea of us improving their feeder patterns. We had questions about our grandfather policy, people asking about how that would be implemented. Lots of strong support for the school of choice at Bailey. We did have questions, and I know that our academics department did a great job of helping address questions related to specialized programs and what would that mean if my child's at a specialized program at a particular school. And we did have good support at Twin Creeks for those schools that Hirsch and Smith that would now be attending Twin Creeks. Lots of people that were happy about that. A brief summary of some of the things that we heard at the community meetings. On Elevate, as you know, we pushed out. We encourage people not only to participate in the survey, but also to provide us information through Elevate. We received 33 dialogues through Elevate. Some of those are here, mentioned here, some of the topics or themes that we saw. We did have some people concerned about the academic performance at certain schools that they might be moved to. We also, the less extracurricular, quality of extracurricular activities was a concern. Again, 33 dialogues received. So often when I talk about these, we're talking about 2 or 3 dialogues focused on a particular topic, but I think it's important and we want to bring you the feedback. Dissatisfaction among families who just said, I bought a home in a particular area because I wanted to go to a particular school, which is pretty common, and I think for all school districts you often hear that, is I wanted to go to this school or a sibling went to this school, so pretty common or par for the course with a boundary change. You can see here, again, some concerns, again, about Delaney, and a few concerns about travel time to school, and then about siblings. Again, 33 dialogues, so we do want to present the information and the feedback that we received. Okay. Just I put these here, just a recap of K-12 Insights. Dr. McIntosh did a great job, but I think it's important to look at both the elementary, the middle near term, the middle long term, and the high school. The high school being where we had, if you can see, a 13-point positive difference was the smallest positive difference, but across all 4 scenarios, we did see a positive difference in the Foley support. And for the Foley support, I'm just using that very far, the outlier sides of the support, but you can see the positive difference there. And I just wanted to reinforce that as well. So important items, that concludes the community input portion, and just some important items that I wanted to walk through for consideration before we actually get into the boundary changes. So building capacity information, we have had questions, and I know Mr. Miranda, I won't spend much time because I know he has given you an update on the bond projects, but just as we look at this, and we do have in the information, is the new building for Robertson Middle School. We're building at or currently planned for 800 capacity. The new middle school in the north, we are looking at 500 to 700 capacity of instructional space, but I know in the design and talking about the design is really looking for a much larger common space. So as we see in growth in the north part of the region, we'll be able to accommodate those students. And as you can see on the last item here, design so instructional space can be easily expanded when needed. Our comprehensive high schools, which is a really nice piece of the story as we talk about, is you saw the red on the red light, green light for our high schools. Our high schools have been in red for a long time. When we have our new 9th grade centers in place at 2,500 capacity and 900, we're talking about capacity of 3,400 combined at our high schools. And for the first time in a long time, we're really going to have nice space for both our students and our staff at all 3 of our comprehensive high schools. So that's exciting. And then Bailey Middle School with the School of Choice is being planned for 800 or slightly more, because it's a building that we feel is very flexible for a few more students, but being zoned for 800 zone students so that it can accommodate a 450 school within a school of choice. So we will talk, and on my next 2 slides, I'll be talking about the improvement to feeder patterns that we were able to accomplish with our proposals. But just, when you look at research, there is just I captured the nuggets of information that you can find about stronger feeder patterns, ability to build stronger relationships. This talks about the relationships with students to staff. It also was very interesting talking about parent relationships. And often when you have feeder patterns and strong feeder patterns, parents that build relationships, and if you think about single parents and they build a relationship with another parent who helps them out, if that can transition to the next level, it's really important. So there's a lot of research that talks about these stronger relationships, and that goes beyond just the students with the staff and the staff from one school, one level to the next level. Middle school teachers being able to coordinate with the high school teachers that they know their students will be going to. But I thought it was really interesting that they talk about those parent relationships too, and that parent that you lean on to say, what was the homework? Do you know about the homework? How are things going in this class? And those relationships too get to extend across levels. A greater sense of community. Peer networks remain intact as you transition from levels, programmatic consistency, and a potential for stronger pathways. As we look at pathways, I know that Dr. Hinojosa and Dr. Topek are excited about the ability to look at with stronger feeder patterns pathways from middle to high school. So these next 2 slides are really important slides for both the planning team and the committee. So again, if you remember, one of our goals and objective was improve feeder patterns. We currently have 13 elementary schools that have a direct feeder pattern to a single middle school. We have 11 that split to 2 middle schools and 1 elementary school that splits to 3, and that's Clark Intermediate. Under the proposal, and it's important for us to recognize, it's the proposal of the elementary attendance boundary changes overlaid with the long term. So some of the feeder pattern improvements we get in even in the short term, but the numbers that we're supplying is when the long term, if approved, would take effect. And the improvement that we see is 18 elementaries would now have a direct feeder pattern to a single middle school. That's an improvement of 5 schools. We have 7 elementaries, which is an improvement, a reduction of 4 schools that split. And a really positive note related to the boundary work is that Clark Intermediate moves up into that 7, would no longer split to 3, but only split to 2 middle schools. So for our high schools, and as I always tell this story, I always mention how Dr. Watson challenged us to 6 middle schools with a direct feeder pattern. Really challenged us as we were looking at our middle schools. We tried every which way possible, but we couldn't balance out our high schools with 6 clear feeder patterns. We did find one proposal that balanced it out, creating 5 clear feeder patterns to a single high school, and that's what we're presenting this evening. We currently only have 1 middle school that has a clear feeder pattern to a single high school, and that's Dewitt Middle School. All of our other middle schools split. And if you think about it from the high school lens, Dekaney currently receives students from 5 of our middle schools. 5 of the 6 middle schools, Dekaney receives some. That I think helps understand how split our feeder patterns are, or how we don't really have feeder patterns from middle to high school. So under the proposal, and the addition, of course, is our new middle school in the north. under the proposal that we're presenting this evening, we would have 5 middle schools with a direct feeder pattern, meaning that those 8th graders go together as a community to a single high school. And we have 2 middle schools that will continue to split. We'll walk you through that, and that would be Wells and Clark. So the final boundary recommendations I'm going to walk through. This is the same presentation that I've presented to the community and both to the committee. So just walking you through our current versus our proposed elementary boundaries. And I know that you have folders, a green and a purple one. If you want to see the maps in larger format, they're there. But I think these show up pretty well. For our elementaries, in our proposed boundaries, again, that would take effect next year if approved, we're really looking at this area of the district where we had some schools that were operating well over capacity. We move into details here. You can see this little piece down here. It's like a little boot that's in yellow-orange. It's the Northborough area. We are recommending to relieve Clark Intermediate. That's at 130% building utilization. We are proposing to move 290 students from Clark to Heritage. That brings Clark down to 111% building utilization, not where we want it to be. We were always so very focused on not splitting up communities, but it is a huge improvement for Clark. We'd like to do more work in the future to bring Clark closer to more optimal levels, but that would be a great improvement for Clark.
That's Northborough, the little subdivision, and also the part of Northborough itself, right?
Yes.
It has a subdivision there too, called Northborough.
This is, and I will refer to Ms. Elmore, this is
This
the
is North Raffaella, the subdivision? Not a subdivision, that little small? What is it then, man? Oh, the apartments.
Right or down.
So the house and everything. I'm sorry.
These are the apartments that are at the intersection of Northborough and Rush Creek.
That subdivision's named Northborough will go where? That's right there on the other end, in that little area. No, that was all day. No. Yeah, they out.
Are you talking about the very small?
I'm talking small subdivision, right there. Yes. Right.
Where Ella used to end?
Yes. They go to Spring. That's not all day. She go to Davis.
Very glad we have Ms.
It's right
Elmore
down
here.
from Davis High School, but it's our district.
They're at Heritage now, and they will continue to go to Heritage.
Thank you.
And then with that is often with attendance boundaries. So we're moving 290 to Heritage, which, as I mentioned, Heritage was under 70%. But when you move 290 students, we push them a little over what we thought was their optimal capacity. So we have another small change here. Oh, I went backwards. I'm sorry. There we go. I'm on the right side of the clicker now. This small change, this is currently in Heritage, so it's currently in yellow here, but we are proposing that we move it 90 students from Heritage to Link. And that gives us a little better balance at Heritage with the 290.
So we're splitting up that Heritage subdivision, where some of them are going to go to Heritage.
So this small portion down here that's currently zoned to Heritage, we are proposing would go to Link. 90 students.
Backside.
It's what they had considered New Rushwood. They originally went to it.
And another small change, when you look here, we mentioned that Hoyland was over capacity. So a move of 120 students from Hoyland to Eichenroth. These are actually apartment complexes that back up to Eichenroth. So a natural move for us to relieve Hoyland there.
Those schools so close together anyway, so.
Exactly. And then here to relieve Bammel Elementary, we're proposing, again, and you can see here, which is a nice piece, is the 1960 on the south part of 1960. We're proposing to move this small piece. These are, you know, where Taco Bell and where Papa's Barbecue is. right behind there is to relieve BAML. We were hoping to provide more relief to BAML, but this is a kind of natural relief that we're able to provide without breaking up communities. 80 students from BAML to Meyer. And that brings BAML from 111%, almost 111.9, so almost 112% building utilization to 102% building utilization. And that move that we did with Boylan to Eichenroth brings them from 113% building utilization, brings them nicely down closer to 90%. Those are the proposed elementary. There are 7 communities that will either have lose students to another school or receive students, but there's only 4 communities that would have students move, if that makes sense. So 7 schools that would either receive or lose students, but only 4 elementary communities. It represents less than 3% of our elementary population. So the current versus the proposed middle school boundaries, and we're looking at current versus proposed near-term boundaries. So those boundaries that we're proposing to go into effect 2017 and 2018. And then we have our proposed long-term boundaries here. You can see the big part being here is the addition of the new middle school in the north. You can see here, of course, is the Wells, the change to Wells. Wells right now, if you know, dips down all the way down here into the North Borough area. The yellow is Eichenroth, the purple is BAML, the blue is Bailey, and of course the yellow here is Dewitt. In our current and in our proposed here, you can see using 1960 as a boundary, the Wells boundary, Clawton picking up this small piece of North Borough here, and a clean boundary for BAML Middle School. As we talked about the feeder patterns, this is something that was a lot of interest with our staff. I would ask our staff when I was out doing the informational meetings, a real simple question, and I'll ask you as well, is what percentage of our current BAML middle school students, what percentage of our current BAML middle school students that look at and see Westfield High School, you know, every day for 3 years on school days, what percentage of them actually will attend Westfield, that can get excited about, this is going to be my high school, this high school that's right across from my middle school. In one of the things, and I will say this across the board, we had a few people that were able to answer this question, but it is only 40% of our BAML middle school students. When you take our current boundaries with our high school, only 40% of our BAML middle school students who look at Westfield, who may get the drum line come over for an event, will actually attend Westfield. 60% of them, when you look at our middle school and our high school overlaid, will attend Dekaney. So I think that's been a point of conversation as we've been having, which shows how weak our current feeder patterns are and the opportunity for us to improve. And that can be seen here with getting a nice clean feeder pattern here for BAML. And then, of course, over here you can see Twin Creeks, the reduced footprint for Bailey, which helps us accommodate the school of choice at Bailey, and then Dewitt over here. So, of course, the Wells, as I mentioned, is a change from our current. You can also see here the BAML that I just mentioned. The North Borough area being zoned to Clawton, which makes a lot of sense.
Right now they're zoned to Wells.
They're Wells, and that's that big dip that Wells does all the way down here. Another change, of course, from our current boundaries and for our middle school, we worked really hard to look at I-45 and to use that as a natural boundary. Of course, you can see here is the area down here, which is Cooper and Hoyland elementary students being zoned to Dewitt. And then you have here, of course, Booker Elementary has been going to Bailey for nearly a decade, but adding this area right over here, which is Meyer and Eichenroth students, adding them to Bailey. And then you can see here in the long term, of course, is the Twin Creeks, that we're able to extend Twin Creeks down when we have the relief from our new middle school. So again, this
Today is going.
Cooper today is going to BAML. So we're going to focus on really quickly, of course, in the long term is this area where we get the relief from the new middle school, which provides us the opportunity for our middle school of choice, a school within a school at Bailey Middle School. So right here, I think a really big piece, and I mentioned this when we talked about our middle school boundary proposals, is that no middle school community will change twice. And the areas that you see circled are the middle school communities that would change in the near term, but they wouldn't change again in the long term. So it's really important from the near term, this is the near term, which is the proposed changes for next year, to the long term. These areas that are circled would not change again. They've already had their change, and that would be next year if approved. Of course, a big one in the long-term scenario is the new middle school in the north, and that's in the blue there. The new middle school in the north providing relief to Twin Creeks, where we're able to bring the boundary for Twin Creeks southeast and incorporate both Hirsch and Smith Elementaries in the Twin Creeks boundary, and that helps us reduce the size of the Bailey footprint to incorporate the school of choice at Bailey. Okay. So proposed elementary, the colors here are our middle school, and the lines are our elementary boundaries. And as we discussed on the feeder pattern portion of the presentation, that would give us an additional 5 elementary schools with clean, clear feeder patterns to a single high school. So when we look at our current versus proposed high schools, what I've circled is particular areas where we're proposing change to our high school boundaries. We're going to do the overlay in just a second with the middle schools, because that's the really important piece for our high schools, is to understand how we're leveraging our proposed middle school boundaries to create those improved feeder patterns. So of course, a big change is this area here on the north side of 1960 that we're proposing be zoned to spring. You're also seeing this area here, that gives us that nice, clean, clear feeder pattern in the proposal for Westfield as well. And then you're seeing Dekaney, of course, a change for the district would be to zone, and this is the reduced Bailey footprint. If Bailey's been reduced footprint, when we get that relief from the new middle school in the north and the DeWitt footprint, zoning them to Dekaney. This that you see down here is Clawton, and that is the current, actually the split at Clawton is the current split that's done for Clawton between Westfield and Dekaney. So this, I think, is the most powerful, is it talks about the feeder patterns and the potential with the proposed middle school boundaries overlaid with the proposed high school boundaries, the improvement in the feeder patterns that we could see. So I'll count really quickly. The middle school in the north would have a clean, clear feeder pattern to Spring High School. Twin Creeks, or the proposed boundary for the future boundary for Twin Creeks, would have a clean, clear feeder pattern to Spring. The proposed boundary for Bailey would have a clean, clear feeder pattern to Dekaney. The proposed boundary for DeWitt would have a clean feeder pattern to Dekaney as well. And then you have Westfield here. And as we mentioned, under this proposal, every student that attends BAML Middle School and looks at Westfield for every school day for 3 years would have the opportunity to get excited and attend Westfield High School under the current boundary proposals. And the 2 splits, we tried to get 6 clean feeder patterns, but this was the only scenario that we could get where we had balance in our schools. You're getting a split at Wells, right here, the entire Ponderosa Elementary, and this was actually a small change that our committee made. They recognized, and we have all of Ponderosa here going all the way up to I-45, this area here going to Spring, and then we have this again is the existing split for Clawton, part of Clawton going to Westfield and part of Clawton going to Dekaney.
Lady Ponderosa again.
So the Ponderosa Elementary, we actually had the line a little bit farther over here and brought up the conversation is that we wanted to keep Ponderosa will all go to Wells, and then Ponderosa students will all go to Spring. So we did the line is right there. That's actually the Ponderosa Elementary line. You don't see the elementary lines on here, But that was a recommendation from our committee. They caught that, and they said, if you moved it over just a little bit, you could get all of Ponderosa. They will all go to Wells together, but then that community, right there, the Ponderosa Elementary community, will then transition after Wells to Spring High School altogether. It was a small change that we actually made shortly before our proposals to you last time. So a reminder, this would be an improvement of 4 additional clean, clear feeder patterns from a middle school to a high school. Again, currently we only have Dewitt, and we would have our new middle school in the north, Twin Creeks, Bailey, Dewitt, and Bammel Middle School with clean, clear feeder patterns to a single high school, if approved. So, do you have any questions for me on this portion? But I would like to invite some of our committee members up, talk about the process, and to answer any questions that you have about the process and their support of our recommendation. And with that, I'm going to ask our cabinet members to swap seats. I'll get principal on one side, over here, and I know Ms. Carter, Mr. Bostic, community members over here. Come on, come on. I'll bring the whole side. Come on. I thought it would be more comfortable for them to answer questions and talk about the process seated, just like we did with the bond committee. So just really quickly, I know you know our principals. We have more principals here that participated in our committee that you could ask questions to, but we did wanted to have a selection of principals here to sit up and answer any questions. And of course, you guys know Ms. Keisha Romack of Booker Elementary. You know Kim Cully from Smith Elementary. You know Diaka Carter from Spring High School. And you know Dr. Ben Bostic of Dewitt Middle School. But I would like to take a moment to introduce our committee members really quickly. And I know that you guys have heard from Ms. Claudia Purda, the SHAC committee, but she is a very active parent in the district and has a 7th and 8th grader at Twin Creeks Middle School. I know that you guys have also met Ms. Latoya Patterson before. She's a teacher in the district. She's a former student of Spring ISD, and she's also the parent of 2 students in the district. And then we have Valeria Mittens is a parent of 3 children in the district, a 6th grader at Wells, a 4th grader at Clark Intermediate, and a 1st grader at Clark Primary. And then lastly, we have Carlos Rivera. He is a business partner and a supporter of the district. Him and his wife own Cabo Dental here in the district. He's been a huge supporter of my team at FACE. His wife comes and does lectures on dental hygiene to our parents, which have been hugely popular. But he's also been a great supporter of monetary and in-kind donations. His wife and him stepped up in our Winter Wonderland and helped provide some items that we needed at the last minute. We appreciate, and all 4 participated on our committee. I did not want any scripting for this. I just wanted, and I'm just going to open the floor up. I'll actually step back a little bit, if anybody, and I'll probably ask one of our principals to kick off and talk about the process to warm the floor up a little bit. But then I just wanted them to be available to answer any questions you have, both from external stakeholders as well as our principals that were very active in this process, to talk about the process and their support of the proposal. So with that, I'll step away and let you guys talk in the microphone.
I'm not sure it was 5 meetings. It seemed like it was a whole lot more. But we did meet a lot about all the different plans and going over what the objectives and the goals for the committee were. They were very much in line with what the district strategic plan was. And some of the challenges that we have in Spring ISD are kind of our own creating. And this is an area where it's really sensitive, and not everybody wants to pull this Band-Aid off, but it's something that needs to happen. And with meeting the objectives that we did with the committee was something that we can make really big strides to meet our goals and objectives for our strategic plan. That it's sensitive, and there's some things that are going to be rough, and managing the change going forward from this is going to be an important piece of it, but it is very manageable. And I think with the information that was given to us, at every step, when we looked at the elementaries, when we looked at the middle schools, when we looked at the high schools, there's a lot of information out there that when a lot of our stakeholders just hear the initial headlines of it, they don't like it. But as they go through the process and really look at the maps and see what does this mean for the district as a whole, what are we gaining for this? The benefits definitely outweigh the challenges. And like I said, a lot of the challenges, we still have good opportunity to be able to meet with just good, smart management of the transition.
Baby, piggybacking off what he said, I mean, the process was very transparent. There wasn't any hidden agendas, and more importantly, it's what's right for kids. Not everybody would do what's right for kids sometimes, and I got excited when I saw the boundary changes coming to the district for the first time, because I thought this is what is going to change generations by taking that stand and getting in front of it, addressing what is there, and really being transparent and very honest about, what we want our community to look like, not today, but 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. This is going to impact, like I said, generations. And I think that the feedback from the community was fair and it was equitable. And I think the feedback also from the community represented that they want to see feeder patterns. People want to have school pride. When you're in elementary school, you want to know one day I'm going to be a lion or one day I'm going to be a wildcat. And the chance to have those feeder patterns gets to instill not just in those students, but then also in those communities that those houses are and those people live in. So I think the process was done very thoroughly and took all things into account.
I just want to piggyback on that. I am excited about the opportunities with the boundary alignment. I think that it does meet the needs of our students, and it balances out the district in many ways. One of the things I'm excited about with my community, though, is last year we actually started a graduation walk where the students would come back to our campus and they would walk the halls of our graduation. And looking forward, we got the email that we're getting that started again this year. But having that pride and being able to, hey, here's your spring line shirts, and let's take a field trip to the games, and let's go to the pep rallies, and really boost that across the district. Whereas before, having the 3 school split, I can't imagine what that's like. Just dividing up and having all that. There needs to be a sense of pride in that, and so I'm really excited about that. I'm also excited for my own Smith community because we have families that are right behind Twin Creeks that are going to Bailey, and they are happy for the long-term goals as well. So I think for my campus, for the district, it's a beautiful thing.
I was truly excited about the process. I have been through several boundary process, I would say, transitions. I've been here since 1996, and I've been on a lot of boundary committees, and it was a lot of work done to make this happen, especially as quick as it did. But I think they were very transparent, but they allowed us to give feedback, whether it was positive or negative. I enjoyed working with the parents. We all had the opportunity to invite parents from our campuses, and even were asked to invite parents who had children in multiple levels of schooling throughout Spring ISD, and I just really enjoyed the process. But most importantly, all stakeholders had an opportunity to give their feedback. And being able to have that process on the internet the entire time, that was powerful. So I really, really appreciate that part of it, because I don't think I've seen that in the years that I've been here. So that was powerful. So it was transparent the entire way.
Before you switch, I have a question for Ms. Carter, but 2 in particular. What was the feedback from the parents of Ponderosa about the piece of Ponderosa is going to spring? That's my first question. The post plan for that other piece to go to spring, and also the other part on this side, on the south side of 45, Cypress, where it is, it's also going to be zoned to a new proposal going to be zoned to spring. Also, now they go to Decaney. What kind of feedback you get on that from your community?
Most of the feedback that I got was positive. Any The little bit of negative feed I got back was mainly from the DeWitt parents that didn't want to be rezoned to Decaney. I actually had someone stop me that his child is currently at Westfield, but they were excited about the transition coming to Spring High School. So I didn't get any negative feedback. The negative feedback that I actually got was before the process started. I think when the what ifs were going to happen, and people had made up their own scenarios about what was going to happen. But once the process started, I didn't get any negative feedback. And as you can see from the survey results, 25% of the feedback came from Spring High School, but I didn't have any parents contact me about being upset about anything.
I just want to hear that because that piece on the south side of 45, I mean, it's only right. It's right there at Spring High School. You know, it's only right. Now it's on to Decaney.
Well, but you've got, when you talk about great generational, you've got generations that have come right over. We've got somebody, Smith and Booker, right? So Booker is right at 105%. 858 students. Smith's at about 590. You're at about 72. Are we doing anything to shift the load at Booker, which is on the other side? I mean, I know we're dealing with Booker, and then also Burchett. Burchett's at about 799 students, 97%. But you've got schools in the area that are in the 70s. Winship. So how are we addressing that and the potential for growth over on those schools?
Yeah, and so for Booker was one of the areas that we wanted to look at, but as we looked at it, we'd really have to cut into communities. And so looking at the facility, and I know that Ms. Womack, we had conversations about this, in this round of elementary, we feel good about the building being able to accommodate a little, and some of our buildings, when you look at utilization rates, are just more friendly to accommodating building utilization levels over 100, and Booker was one of those. But we looked and we actually ran some scenarios, but we would have been kind of cutting into communities and splitting communities. So for right now, for Booker in particular, we decided to wait and let the building actually accommodate a little bit more over the building utilization rate for now. I think this process for me has been hugely informational. As I also had the privilege of leading the bond project. I think this has been really informational for me as we look at the potential need for additional elementaries. I think that the question that you're raising here, that might be something that we would need to look at on that side of the district, particularly because we still, as you look at our elementaries, we have several elementaries, Eichenroth, Hoyland, and Meyer that cross over 45, having elementary students cross to the sides of 45. But to your question, we'd like to look at addressing that, and definitely is on our radar and one of our important notes for future work. But we did feel that the option for keeping the levels at Booker currently at the current levels based on their building and their ability to accommodate the students there, felt better about that than the scenarios we ran that we were breaking up communities.
Right. Well, and you know, I'm looking at maximization of square footage usage too. I know we've got pre-K we're going to talk about, but also got some in the 70s, 71, 72%. I don't know if there's a conversation down the road for some specialized elementary programs. School of choice, school within a school, those types of things.
We are having conversations about elementary programs. One of the priorities that, based on budget, we probably won't be able to do, we had talked with you all about an elementary GT center that we were wanting to look at, or GT opportunities. But one of the things we must consider, if you remember, when we had the bond conversations and the bond presentations, there was a lot more that the community and the group wanted that we didn't have funds to do. And so we were able to come forth with the items that were passed, but this is still an issue as you look at the numbers at our secondary campuses. Even with the changes, there leaves a lot of room for more opportunities to continue looking at how we can utilize through school within a school opportunities, as well as future new schools.
Going with that idea, I'm very interested in how school choice is being built into this plan? Because I know we were talking about grandfathering in siblings or someone who really wants to go where there's an excellent band program, or I know that we're starting to put some of these career pathways into different high schools. Also, if you could expand your discussion about Bailey Middle School and what that school within a school would look like. So anyway, anything about school choice where parents
Absolutely.
have a choice.
We have Dr. Hinojosa come up.
Yeah, and I can ask too if you want. I mean, we could do the input from our community, from our stakeholders, and I also want. We do have our cabinet, which are knowledge experts in a lot of areas. We could swap seats again if you wanted to do that to talk about the process first. But if you want, we can have Dr. Hinojosa
Let's
come
have
up.
Dr. Hinojosa come up first.
Thank you. And absolutely, school choice is one of the areas that we built into our strategic plan, opportunities and choices for our families and the students. And I know in looking at what is available immediately and what we could do in the future, I think I heard Mr. Bell talk about pre-K. We do know that some of our schools in the Northeast are lower in their enrollment. And so as we look at our budget, I turn this way because Ms. Westbrooks normally sits right here. But as we look this way, as you know, pre-K is one of our imperatives as we look at student achievement and school choice. So we're looking at not only the grant that we have, that keeping our fingers crossed, we can keep those programs down here in the Southwest, but looking at the Northeast and with our own local funds, opening up full-day pre-Ks. As Mr. Bell cited, our schools in this area have space available. So considering Anderson Elementary and being able to build up their numbers based on the need and the space available, as well as Smith Elementary, based on the need, the interest that has come from the community, and the space availability, we would start growing those programs. As we go back to our strategic plan and we gathered the input from our community, looking at dual language programs where we can have not only native Spanish speakers learning English, but most importantly, what we heard from our community was our native English speakers wanting to learn Spanish. And so how could we open dual language programs, number one, where the interest was, and then number two, where the space was available? Again, we saw a lot of interest in our Northeast communities where parents were asking for those programs. So we've been doing a lot of research, actually have a committee working to look at dual language programs coming where we have the space available and where we have the interest and where we have the Spanish-speaking community that's small but can absolutely lift up the English speakers. And then when we look at our middle schools, for Bailey Middle School, again, through the strategic plan, our parents really looking for languages, programs that would enhance the languages, not only Spanish, but looking ahead towards the Arabic and the Mandarin Chinese. We know that energy is a big career and industry moving forward, energy, oil and gas, as well as technology. The languages that correspond to those pathways are the Mandarin Chinese and the Arabic. So looking forward and now considering Bailey wanting to form a committee to come and give us that input. Do we move and align Bailey, let's say, with the oil and gas, with the STEM and the technology, or do we start bringing in a second language? So that's something that we would want to, once this proposal is approved, that we would want to have our community come back in. They gave us a lot of input a year and a half ago, but now that we have the opportunities, what do we want to do at Bailey? And then how do we link to our high schools and the pathways that we have, and then how do we link into our elementary schools where they're prime with our little ones to learn that second language, to be excited about STEM and engineering.
Talk a little bit about Dekaney, our conversations regarding that.
So at Dekaney, again, having the great opportunities, and as you'll recall, we started our work in building our small learning communities, really building those academies. Dekaney High School is built in such a way that it's meant to have smaller communities focusing on a specific pathway. We've started that work already, as you'll recall, almost now 2 years ago, when we looked across not only in our community, but across the Gulf Coast area, and what are the careers that are moving and up and coming. So we ended up starting with Winchie, which is our career academy, but then going to all of our high schools and surveying our students. What are they interested in, and how does that match up with the future careers? We ended up, if you'll recall, sunsetting some programs at Winchie and opening some new programs at our comprehensive high schools. Specifically at Dekaney, if you'll recall, that's where we had a huge interest in the auto tech. So that pathway, that small learning community has already started, but we actually have right now 5 pathways. And if you think about how Dekaney is set up, you come in and we talk about Main Street, and then we have those hallways that have like a horseshoe where we have all those classrooms. We are building those pathways to be self-contained small communities that the students can start as early as 9th grade with their beginning level principals courses, and then be able to go through with their academy leader and their assistant principal, really growing and becoming that school within a school, that little pathway, that small learning community as we know it. And so that work has already started with Dekaney in setting them up for success and setting them up for those pathways that will lead them to future careers.
So if I'm zoned to one high school and I want to go to this auto tech pathway, I'm not going to have busing. I would have to transport my own child, right? At this point?
So we have, and as cabinet and in working with our high school principals, we've had a lot of discussion about that. Because we do have our school of choice, being Winchie, that has the 3 towers that we've done their career pathways. At our comprehensive high schools, they have the 18 career pathways that we have at all of them. So for example, education is at all of our comprehensive high schools. But as you'll recall, as part of our proposal, we do have 3 unique pathways that are unique to every school. At Spring High School, we have the firefighter program. That's only there. At Dekaney, auto tech. These programs are just up and coming, right? So we are at our sophomore year. We do have the ability, through the policy that exists, for students and families, really the family, requesting a transfer. I may be zoned to Spring High School, but I'm very interested in the auto tech program that is at Dekaney. I will be able to apply for a transfer, go through the process, and if you look at our current existing transfer policy, it does allow for it where we're requesting a specific program. Not just because I want to go there for athletics, right, that, you know, I want to join this team, Dekaney's basketball team. It's very specific, citing UIL and those regulations. But if there is a specific program that I want to go to, yes, I can apply for that transfer. Under the program, if it's a specific CTE program, we would, as a district and as a state, we would pay for transportation. A CTE program is considered the same as our special education program or as a bilingual program where we would transport the student if the student is choosing to go to the auto tech, the firefighter program, or at Westfield, our logistics program that we have established that are unique to those campuses.
Thank you.
There has to be room available at that high school, is that correct?
Absolutely. So those are pieces that as we look at our policy, absolutely, we want to be able to say Number one, space available in the building, but space available in the programs. I can share with you that, for example, at Spring High School and Decaney and Westfield, these are baby programs, as we call them, right? They're just growing. So space available in that career pathway is there right now. But as we follow our policy, yes, we would have to look at building-wise, and then we would look at the pathway at that specific program, and of course we would look at the staffing, which is what we do now as it stands. The receiving principal looks at space available, looks at all the requirements, signs off. Then it comes to central office. We look at it globally and we sign off. So we would follow our existing policy.
So
my apologies.
I actually have some concerns and some data I want to request. But before I do that, I want to hear from
Yes.
our...
Absolutely.
Good evening. Coming in as a parent onto this committee was definitely an eye-opening experience for me. Looking at the map, personally, I felt like I needed a big poster size because it was so overwhelming. Never seen the map first and foremost, and trying to comprehend what was being put in front of me. So once I got up to speed as to the feeder patterns, great things happened while, we were in session as a committee, and the proposal that came about and the recommendations that we're also bringing. I firmly believe as a parent, I'm always involved in my children's school, but that doesn't necessarily mean I know exactly what's going across the board within the district. And it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me to realize that we really did not have those feeder patterns that were truly established within our district. I had fun. I truly had fun, and I met great people, and it was overwhelming at times, but in the end, I see good things coming in the future. Absolutely.
Good evening to all of you. I think transparency has been kind of the buzzword today, so the process was very transparent. But I was also struck by the openness and the willingness of everyone, Tiffany and Shalia, to get you the information you needed when you had questions. Any idea that you wanted to say, hey, if we kind of move these kids here versus this, how would those numbers look? And they gave you those numbers, so you were able to make a really good decision. I think I've seen the district grow and change over many, many years, starting off just the two high schools, and so there were clear feeder patterns. You had your elementary in the back of your neighborhood, and then the middle school like right across the street, and then the high school. Those days are gone, but this is like the best effort to try to make that as close to reality as possible. And one thing that I kept thinking about was something that Nelson Mandela said. He said, may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. And so change is always hard. It's difficult. It's not what people want, but it's what's needed. And I think the principal from Spring High School said it's what's best for kids. And I challenge you all to accept this proposal and to make the changes that we need so that we are actually living out what you all gave us with Every Child 2020, making those dreams a reality and a vision for our school. Thank you for letting me be a part.
Good evening. Like I've told Ms. Tiffany and Dr. Hinojosa, I'm new to the district. I'm new to the state. So coming into this committee, it opened up a view of what really is going on in our community. I do have children in 3 schools. Trust me, it's crazy. Because you have to deal with 3 principals, 3 styles of teaching, homework for all 3 of them. But like our fellow said, my husband and I have become involved with our children and their schools. And Dr. Hinojosa met my husband. He pretty much volunteers at Clark every Friday from 7 in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And coming to the feeder pattern, yes, I'm still trying to stay in Wells because just like they said,
when we bought our house, we bought it looking into, yes, we were going to go to Bammel, then to Dekaney. When my child went to 6th grade, oh, it's not Bammel, it's Wells. I have to drive him all the way from where we live, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, to Wells. Now, next year, oh, we're going back to Bammel, but we like Wells. So it is looking at that situation. We already got to know a school and their system and change. But, like everybody else has said, we have to learn to change. And for me, being here not even 2 years, coming from a whole nother country, a whole nother system, change is good. Thank you.
I came in this kind of accidentally. I didn't really know what to expect. My wife and I, Dr. Babette Rivera, we have our office. It's within the school district. We reached out to the school district to just try to get more involved in the community. And they've actually been very wonderful to us, inviting us to many events, and anything they would invite us to, we just, yes. You invite us, we want to be a part of it. I reached out to Leticia Grounds and said, is there anything else we can be involved in? Thinking of health fairs, thinking of anything we can be involved in. And she sent me the email and she said, we want to be part of this. And I thought to myself, it's not quite what I had in mind. But I talked it over with my wife, and we are the type of people that if someone invites you to something, you do your best to say yes. And so I just said yes. And I walked into these doors not knowing what to expect. I felt that I wouldn't be able to contribute, but if anything, I would learn and I would listen and just be a student. So when we were handing these binders and maps and color coding and graphs and charts, it made me think of our business. We're a mom and pop shop. My wife and I, if anything needs to get done, it's up to us. If we want to grow our business, if we want more patients, if we want to just grow within the community, everything that happens it's just up to her and I. And we'll have an idea, we'll sit down face to face, we start throwing out these wonderful, colorful ideas of this and that and how wonderful it's going to be. And then we stop and we say, okay, what are the numbers? Because we can't have any kind of real plan without looking at the numbers. So we sit down, how much is this going to cost us? How long is it going to take to implement this plan? How many people can we reach with this plan? What's going to be our return on the investment? And then how are we going to track its progress? And every decision we make has to be based on numbers. So coming into the committee meeting, I had no idea how big it was going to be. I thought it was going to be 10 people, and I thought, well, maybe at the end of the meeting I'll bring a bundt cake one day. And then there's 50 people, and I thought maybe not. But during that time, the amount of information we were given, seeing how every adjustment affects the entire plan. You can't just say, let's shift the map over just a little hair this way. Well, you do, and then you swallow 3 apartment complexes, and it changes it drastically. Move it a hair the other way, and you swallow a field with horses in it, and it makes no difference. And what I loved about the process was having people like myself who come in, who are new to the community, who are not a part of the faculty, who would ask questions, and we were given full attention, 100% respect. And there was no bad question. If the idea was thrown to the table, experts were questioned. There was a lot of information that was given, and I appreciate that. Education is really important to my wife and I, and looking at the reduction of attendance in certain schools we see is very important. The feeder patterns, I myself, my father was a hard worker, but he had a lot of jobs, so we moved a lot. And from kindergarten to I graduated from high school, I went to 19 schools. So my education suffered because of it, but he he always kept a positive attitude. He'd always try to spin things of how, look at this new change and how things were, and he kept us always, he wouldn't let us sulk in that, I don't like this new change. And he would always lift up our spirits. I think most important about this whole thing is progress. We live in an ever-changing community, and we have to always look at ourselves and reevaluate our current processes in order to progress, in order to succeed. And in order for us to, we can't look at ourselves individually and how it affects us individually. We have to look at the community as a whole and how it's going to affect us. And we can't succeed unless our community succeeds. And without having this progress, progress is everything. We need to progress. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Let me go. Okay, so one, I just want to say thank you to all of you because I started off volunteering as a Girl Scout troop leader and ended up on the board. So, but it takes a village. You know, without the support of our educators and our parents and our community, you know, we aren't the village, the strength that we need to be the village I want for our kids. I have a little concerns with the high school boundary. And I don't want to voice right now which particular ones, but I'm really concerned around what our challenges are going to do from an academic perspective. I think that the committee has done a really amazing job, and clear feeder patterns. It's really important that we have school culture. Kids build pride. I think someone shared, you know, when you're in elementary school, you always say, I'm going to be that lion or I'm going to be that wildcat. That's really important. But what I want to maybe take an opportunity to run some numbers around so that we can make sure that we have equitable distribution from an educational challenges that we face in the district today. You know, I'm concerned about what's going to happen from a staff development perspective, from our ability to retain teachers, and from a discipline perspective. And some of those things we're challenged with today. And I don't want to make these changes and it's worse. You know, I want to make sure that what we're doing, we've looked at those numbers and we've reviewed that and we've made the best decision holistically for what's best for our kids. We're facing mobility rate. We're facing the challenges that come with the shift in the demographics that we have, how we need them to start them earlier with the pre-K. We've got a lot of challenges today. So what I would really like an opportunity, if my colleagues would support me in taking a look at the high school and the middle school proposed boundaries and the last 3 years of state data, 2 years of state data, and what would that look like? What would our data look like for those campuses with the proposed change?
Okay.
Can we do that? Can we take a look at that? I'm really kind of trying to politically correctly request what I'm asking for. But I really think that it's important that we take a look at that. We don't want to create an atmosphere where we can't retain our teachers, where we heighten in our discipline problems, where I want to make sure that that's in line as well as what it looks like from an academic perspective. Have we done that? Have y'all done that already? You have that data already?
Yeah, and actually we presented that to you all at the last month through our TAPER report. We went over the last 2 or 3 years student achievement data, the discipline data, and everything for all of our campuses.
No, but I want to see, that's not what I'm asking for.
You're asking with
I'm
the boundaries.
saying let's take a look at the new boundaries that we have for our 3 high schools and even the middle schools. I just want the high schools. If y'all want to look at the middle schools, that's fine. And take that data that we do have and we've received, and what is that going to do to the standings of those campuses?
So,
Let me go first. So one of the things we can definitely try to look at that. One of the most difficult things is, in order to do that, we would have to try to pool every individual student across the entire district by content area, and that's.
That's not what I'm asking for. Let's take a look at the campus data and just what schools feed into which ones and how that would have changed that campus.
So we can look at a little bit, and we have asked, we've had information to be asked to be pulled on what, based on the new modeling, to look at economically disadvantaged and the movement that we would see there. So modeling from an academic perspective too, because when we look at the modeling and we're going out to 2020, a lot of the modeling we're actually doing, we're actually looking at our current 8th graders being incoming 12th graders and the change.
but we do have some information on the economically disadvantaged distribution. We don't see, and I can walk through that. I'd like to ask if you're okay if we allow our committee members to get off of the hot seats and bring our cabinet members back up. And I just want to, if there's no additional questions on the process.
Other people have questions for.
I have a question, but it's Dr. Watson
Go ahead.
probably answer that.
So for the committee members, do we have any additional questions?
I did have one question, and every time change is always good, and I always say the one consistent thing in life other than the love of God is change. It's always going to happen, and if you don't learn to embrace it and look at all the facts around it and make the best choice you can, then you're going to rob yourself of a lot of joy in life and worry. So I love change. I want to thank you. But when that happens, there's always that one thing that kind of burns at you. Like, I've got this one piece. Everything looks great, but I've got this one thing that's gnawing at me, and I want to try to see if I can get some answers. What's the one thing that's gnawing at you?
At me? Personally,
Mm-hmm.
I was very disappointed that the parents did not participate. The participation from parents in our community, over 15,000 invitations were sent out. And to receive less than 2,000, because I'm going to give it a nice round number, instead of quoting an exact number, I cannot comprehend that. I am very, very involved with my kids. Whether they were in elementary, whether in other things outside of school, I realize that no matter what I do, if I'm involved, that organization succeeds. Therefore, my kids succeed. And to not see that was like, really? I was just lost at words.
Disappointing.
Very. Very much so. So that's what, I can't believe we have that within our district.
One of the things that gnawed at me was the misconceptions that so many people have about the different schools. So the parents that are very gung-ho about Spring High School look at the other two high schools in a certain way. The parents that are gung-ho about Westville look at the other two. And so I think we have like a marketing issue around our high schools, because I don't think that people understand the great things that are happening with our kids, with our teachers, with our schools. And I think we have to change that, because there are some preconceived notions that people have, and that's part of what's, getting people all riled up on Facebook about some of the changes, but when they don't come to the meetings. So I think we have like a PR issue with some of our high schools that we need to fix.
In my case, it was both parent involvement, and you see in the schools, there's a lack of parent involvement. And I can talk about Clark because you don't see parents. You could see pretty much the volunteers at Clark are my husband and myself. That we have gotten a few more parents this year, but they're not there constantly. And the other thing is, like I said, I'm new to the district, and we bought the house thinking we were going here. We didn't want to go to be zoned to the other schools, because you hear horror stories about the other schools. And it's just a gamble, really and truly. And if you're not involved in your child's life, you will not know what's going on. And even so, by being involved, they're sneaky. And we're all parents. And they sneak around us, and they'll try to pull the wool over our eyes. But we have to be involved. And we have to get rid of those preconceptions of the other schools. I myself went to the same school from pre-K to senior year. And hey, the school is, I wish I could go back for May 5th, because we're celebrating 50 years in our school, and they invited all the alumni around the world. And like you said, yeah, we're proud to be Panthers, but that's just it. We were, I don't want to say groomed, but we grew up in that school. We grew up in that area, and I still have the same friends, the 86 friends that we graduated together. We
we still communicate, and having that bond with our classmates, that's important too.
I think it's pretty much along the same lines. I feel that parents, and it's not a bad thing. Pride is a wonderful thing. Pride of your school, pride for your community, for that mascot you want to stand behind. Put it on the back of your car next to your husband, wife, dog, and all that. But when it comes down to it, it's a wonderful thing, but it's not what truly matters for the future of your child. And looking at the results of the survey and seeing such a high, more passionate result from that high school, I think it's because of that. This is the school that I wanted my kid to go to. This is like you said, I moved to this house and bought this house because I wanted to go to a good school. The thing about these schools, about these mascots, they're empty without the people that are behind them, without the faculty, without great parents, without great students. It's just a building. The symbol of the panther, of the lion, means nothing without the great people that are behind it. And it takes that involvement for the parent to get up every day and to be involved, to read the emails, like the survey, to open up their kids' folder and see what's going on in their school, to take time. And it's hard work to be a good parent. It's hard work to be involved. And some of these parents have 2 jobs. I myself, my wife and I owning our business, we have 2 small children. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and my daughter tells me, "Dad, today's silly hat day." And it's like, "What hat? I don't have a hat for you." And next thing you know, we're running to the store trying to create whatever we can. So, unfortunately, as much as I would love to have more participation from parents, as parents, that many of us are here, I understand that sometimes, you open the fridge in the morning and there's not even milk for cereal. So, being involved is extremely important for these parents. If you want a good school, be the beginning of that good school. Be the beginning of that great mascot. It's your involvement with your children in the school, communicating positively with your teachers, with faculty, talking to your children, getting them up early, having a positive start, and making that school great is what really matters. Not you going there and expecting it to be already wonderful for you. So that's the thing that kind of gnaws at me is that and even though all that's wonderful and all, 20 years from now, even though you can look back and say I was proud to be a Lion, it's more important that your school system was running efficiently to give you the education that you needed to prepare you for your future, for your career, so that then you can succeed for your family.
Can we have another question for the committee? I want to say thank you to our committee for participating, and we're going to take you off the hot seats and bring our cabinet back up. And then I'd like to just take a moment to address, it might not be exactly.
I'm really trying to think through how I can get to what I'm asking, how we can get to what I'm asking.
I have we did model out, and so it is difficult. And one of the things when we're looking at the proposed zones and looking at, so we have to model out for our schools of choice. We did have questions that came about during the process talking about economically disadvantaged, and would we be changing the levels of economically disadvantaged at our 3 comprehensive high schools with the boundary changes? So that's not, apples for apples with the question related to student achievement, but we did run the best analysis that we could. I think when we were doing this too and pulling from the data that you guys have seen, but breaking it out, 70% of Spring ISD as a district classified as economically disadvantaged. At our high schools is about 64%. I think it's really important, though, to some of the questions is the perception that we have in the district. Because when you look at our current rates of economically disadvantaged, our high school with the highest rates of economically disadvantaged is Westfield High School, that is at 68.4% of the students at Westfield High School are classified as economically disadvantaged. Coming right behind them is Early College with 68.4% of their students. Spring High School is our, this is current zone, and I'll talk a little bit about our analysis. Spring High School was the lowest, but at 57.1%,
economically disadvantaged. Decaney was about 5 percentage points below Westfield in early college, coming in at 63%, and they were basically on par, Wanchee being a little higher than Decaney at 63.9. So what I want to talk about a little bit, and I know, and I'll pass the floor over to Dr. Hinojosa from a curriculum, but it's perception. And we often have the perception, and as we were having conversations with some of our community members, the perception is that Decaney would have the highest on economically disadvantaged, and that's not the case. That's not the case. When we did run our analysis, looking at the new boundaries and what that would mean, because we do have the students geocoded and we kind of know, but we are also looking at, we have to remind the 2020, and this was the point when we're looking at modeling, is when we're looking at 2020, we're actually looking at our 8th graders, our 7th graders, our 6th graders, and our 5th graders. That's, yeah. So we need to really look at, those are going to be the high school students when the new plan is implemented. So when we run our analysis, we don't see significant changes. Westfield High School, based on our current analysis with the boundary changes, would still have the highest levels of economically disadvantaged, probably being close to the number that it is. Spring would still be the lowest, but again, not significantly lower than Decaney. And so we did run that analysis because we did have questions from our community, and a lot of it is perception. It's the perception and people assuming that Decaney is our school with the highest levels of economically disadvantaged, which is not the case in the district. I know that Dr. Hinojosa, again, to perception of academics and achievement levels, we don't have huge differences across our 3 high schools, which is important to note. It would be difficult, though, because we are having to track those students, those cohorts, versus our current high school students. We could do our current high school students, but I know from talking with our data team and all of that, we don't see with the boundary changes significantly changing or shifting our populations of economically disadvantaged, of poor performing or high performing, like shifting the balance in our school greatly. And I think that's an important point for us to note. And as we look at the feeder patterns, it's about strengthening all of our schools, but that we're shifting kids around, that we're going to impact by bringing more economically disadvantaged to a particular campus than another campus, or bringing more academically challenged students to one campus versus another campus. We do not see that in any of our modeling. And if we had seen that, we wouldn't be presenting the presentation as we're presenting it. This is about, really balancing out our schools and particularly having strong feeder patterns so that we can strengthen our program.
I want to thank you. That was very helpful.
But I mean, the conversations people are having are here and now. They're about what's here now versus, as you all are eloquently describing, starting with our middle school kids. They're looking at the here and now.
Absolutely.
That's the conversation piece. That's reality.
And so I guess just from my perspective, just to reiterate what Tiffany just said, in looking at, and I know, Ms. Durant, you asked for discipline, you asked for STAR data and eco disadvantage. When we looked at those 3 pieces, the economically disadvantaged, the perception is what, even myself, you're living it every day. When we looked at the data and we challenged each other, when the data was pulled, in my mind, I thought Decaney had the highest number, and that wasn't the case. And then even when we model it forward, push it forward, it would still remain the same, with Westfield and actually the students at Wanchee having the highest number of low socioeconomic. When we look at the current data, which is what Mr. Bell was looking at, when you look at our current end of course data at the 3 comprehensive high schools, they're just about neck and neck. So there's not a great difference. We're not going to see one high school outperforming overall the other high schools. Each one has strengths and higher in subjects, but when we put them all together, they're about even. that's not considering our schools of choice, right, that have a criteria and parents choose to go there. And then when we look at our discipline, that's another perception that we have out there. And actually, we just sat through some data with Chief that was fresh, new data that his police department pulls on a monthly basis. And again, we have a perception that one of our comprehensive high schools has so many more, arrests and all of that. And it was completely the opposite. Again, it's the perception and it's not what's happening. So when we start modeling out, we're actually looking at our current 5th graders right now would be our 9th graders in 2020, 2021. So looking at these kids and looking at their data, it really doesn't help us really project out 3 years, 4 years, because it's a whole lifespan for them. But also looking at our mobility rate. When we have schools that are at 14%, but we have many of our elementary schools and middle schools as high as 30, and one of them being as high as 44%, it's really hard for us to be able to project where they're going to be 3 years later, 4 years later. But the data analysis that we pulled through this process with ECO, it's more on perception and not the reality of what is currently happening in our schools and what would be projected.
Also, and I don't know if Dr. Hinojosa, but really when we looked at the feeder patterns, one of the really nice things from our feeder patterns is that the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 elementaries are much better balanced across our 3 comprehensive high schools under the current proposal, which I know for our assistant soups was the strongest thing. And as we were looking, and I just want to mention, we understand that the high school boundaries are transformational, and I don't know, I know Michelle Starr's probably, is she here? But for an educator that's been in the district a long time, I mean, she got like emotional about looking at our elementaries, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3, seeing how better balanced they are. When you look at the maps, you will clearly see that across our 3 comprehensive high schools, which gives all of our comprehensive high schools a real chance to be successful and to be strong schools. So that was an exciting part. Of course, we want to improve our elementaries that aren't performing where we want them, but there's a real nice balance, and that was part of the work too, as well, with our assistant soups participating in the planning team.
You all have answered my question, but I would like to see the tiering of the schools and how it balances out, as well as the eco data.
Yeah, we can get that,
and we,
by tomorrow.
Yes, because we.
So I'd like to see it. I'm glad we've modeled it out and we've taken it into consideration, but I would like an opportunity to see it.
Let me, our families and students look for a whole lot of things in schools and a lot of extracurricular things. I know we've got fine arts here, we've got our athletics here, we've already recognized our JROTC. Have we had those discussions about the impact of our extracurricular areas as we do the shift with the high schools? I mean, have there been discussions and back and forth on that maybe we can?
That's one of my biggest concerns I've been trying to ask for quite some time now is
how
do we respond to parents that are having these concerns that were on Elevate? I mean, there's 3 valid concerns from our high schools about academic performance, which we've talked about, the extracurricular activities, and the behavior issues and safety issues. How are we responding to these parents, or did we even respond to them on Elevate?
So I think to the academic performance and discipline, and we do have differences at our school, but the difference from some of the conversations and reading some of this Elevate is a perception issue. People are seeing
we
great.
Don't?
No.
We have differences, but they're not as huge as some of the comments that are being made. To the extracurricular, we do have parents that are saying, I want to be in this program at this specific high school. And from the Elevate questions, some of that was coming from the Spring community. And we have some phenomenal programs at the Spring community. But when we look at boundary changes and we have to look at the district holistically. And what would be my hope is that we create really strong programs at our other schools, and those traditions are carried to the other schools, and they increase. But the perception too, from when you're hearing these, a lot of it is perception versus, that gap of differences that some of the people were noting in the comments on Elevate. We also, and to be both at our community meetings and in our comments on Elevate, I want to be completely honest, is there's some related to race, and it's going to race very, very quickly, and the perception is more focused on race, and they're going very quickly to race. But that gap, and this school has such a better program than over here, that's a perception. The comments, there's a huge perception gap. I know the music program at Dekaney is phenomenal. So I think that's part of, having the right conversations, working with our directors, and really strengthening the program and reassuring our parents that they will still have access to very strong extracurriculars at any school within the district, any one of our 3 comprehensive high schools. But I do want to, when I talk on the Elevate, I am providing those high-level comments, but a lot of the comments are going very quickly to more, I don't want my children to go with those children.
I thought we were going to get more information on what was on Elevate other than just like this snippet here.
So there were 33 responses. Those were the categories that they talked about, and all of the different categories were covered in that. But we didn't bring every specific comment verbatim of what everyone said. We did somewhat like what K-12 did and coded them and summarized them.
And we did have some, I know we put in, because again, I think you heard from the committee that we wanted to be very transparent, and we know as a board, you want to know the concerns that were out there, but we did have positive Elevate comments that came through that were very pleased with. This is a great opportunity. We love the idea of feeder patterns. So we gave you so that you saw the concerns, but we also had positive Elevates that came through and said, this is an opportunity to transform our district. This is an opportunity to create the feeder patterns. This is an opportunity for the district that we need to be able to give our children. So we had those two, and I know your concern is here. And just, again, we can definitely provide the data, and I know because it's so fresh in my mind, the perception idea of one school is more dangerous over the other school. The data, and I know Chief always sends them up as part of your board updates, for you to take the time to look at it when you believe that one of our high schools is more dangerous than the other. When you look at the number of arrests and the number of disciplinary infractions, that's not the case. But we hear it in the community, and sometimes because we say it, and that's why it's so difficult for us to say in the open, because once you say it, it's out there and people grab onto it and they forget to hear the second part.
I had made a note I was going to send an email to request the verbatim comments from K-12, because I would like to see those as well as the ones from Elevate. I appreciate this, summarizing it in the PowerPoint. I would like an opportunity to look through them. I want to thank you. You provided us the talkers, what do we call them? I call them talking points. You call them talkers. You actually sent it to us on February 13th, because I just pulled them up. And they were very helpful, but if we could add some to those to address, what is summarized here. To Jana's point, there's some legitimate comments that came here, so maybe if we can update our talkers to include.
And we can share the Elevate, it's 33, but I want to caution, it's 33 dialogues, and I'm always try to be as respectful of everyone's voice. I read them all, and I know many of our cabinet members read them all. I summarized them in the most authentic way. I didn't keep any of the negative comments out in my summaries, but for some of those comments, it's 2 or 3 people that made one comment in the entire district, and we pushed really hard for people to provide feedback. So I think as part of the entire, every voice matters, but I think too that, 2 voices, on a particular issue, I just think that we all have to have caution with that.
And also, just as we looked at programs, we've got our Director of Fine Arts and our Director of Athletics, both Mr. Joe Clark and Mr. Willie Amendola were part of our planning committee as well as the larger committee, and they participated in every session, and we specifically sat down with them in sessions just to look at how would this impact our band program, our choir program, our basketball program that is so strong, as Ms. Newhouse was talking about, our football program, the track. Those three big programs, when we think about athletics, and then our smaller programs, what are the impact? What is the impact, and how can we mediate that so that our students have that opportunity? If they are zoned to a new high school, what would they look like? And I know both of them, I don't know if you have any questions of them, but that was a big concern that we brought to the table in the small group and to the table in the large group, to be able to look at all angles to ensure we're considering all of our students.
Well, that's why I just brought it up, because with anything, you have what are called unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
That arise. Sometimes you don't flesh them out all the way. So if you guys have certainly had that conversation, and it's unfortunate that some of the remarks have denigrated to where they have. Years ago, after Katrina, we didn't get the largest bulk of students from Katrina, but we got the largest percentage. And you would hear negativity regarding those Katrina kids, students. You run into some now, and they're quite successful, doing great things. And you also hear that with those apartment kids, where they're stereotyped or grouped into a certain category. And so you do get that, unfortunately.
And I know if they want to talk with Willie Amendola or Joe, but as we look at the boundary scenarios tonight, I think timing, and I've had questions related to the timing. We worked very hard on this project coming right out of the bond, but there is a timing impact here particularly for the near term, but for sure, because I don't know if everybody knows, but cheerleading tryouts were put on hold for this process, because we definitely didn't want anyone trying out to be a middle school cheerleader, becoming a cheerleader, and then, by the way, you've been rezoned to another campus. So lots of things, including staffing in that. But, we came right out of the gate after the bond to start on this project, because we had schools that were over capacity, in our elementary and middle school, that we really wanted to address in next school year. So we came out, but we wanted it to be an authentic process. And I hope you heard from the committee. We needed the time for them to look at the scenarios. We need the time. So we have tried to work as hard to condense this process. But for our middle schools and our elementaries, and for those boundaries, we do need to have some clarification for our community on the direction we're going, because timing is of an essence with staffing and with students for next school year. I have two more slides. So this is a slide we were requested at our work session last Thursday for transportation cost analysis. I know that Mr. Miranda here, but we did model out the numbers that you see here is the approximate number of students if every student that would be rezoned based on 12th and our 11th and 12th graders combined, and everybody took advantage of the grandfather policy. So it's kind of the most extreme scenario. And do you want me to click
Did
on
we leave that at a year or 2 years? The grandfather.
The grandfather, we have both. We have a part here that would be for just 12th graders, and then we have a part here that would be for 12th and 11th graders, which is 2 years, which, of course, for the 2 years, you'd have an impact both the first year and the second year. If we were to grandfather in and provide transportation to just 12th graders, that's the top white row.
Thanks.
Okay. And I will turn it over. Do you want me to turn the next little animation one? Or?
Sure.
Okay. There we go.
I don't know if everyone can read what's on the screen. It's behind me. So What we were looking at in this scenario is specifically for grandfathering 12th graders. If we were to provide transportation services for those students, the cost would be significant. It would be something that we would have to really take a look at, primarily because we would be talking about brand new routes. We would have scenarios where we would have buses going to a single neighborhood and transporting students to 2 different high schools from that neighborhood if we did the grandfather and allowed them to come in. So again, taking from worst case scenario where all of the 12th graders were taking advantage of that opportunity, we would be traveling, I'm trying to look behind me, 128,000 additional miles. And there would be a significant M&O cost. We would also need to add a significant number of buses because these would be brand new routes. The other thing is if we were to make it 12th grade or 11th grade or combined, for 12th grade we may have students on that bus and we may have capacity for 11th graders. So in other words, the difference between 12th and 11th grade is going to be significant either way, right? Adding 11th graders, they could potentially be empty seats on the same bus. And so the cost for 12th grade is high. Adding 11th grade doesn't significantly add to the cost if they're going into the same neighborhoods. But that initial cost for doing the 12th grade would be something we'd have to consider. And we are talking about, as you see in that first scenario in the blue, about 16 to 20 additional routes. And again, it's kind of hard for us to project how many would take advantage of that grandfathering. And so we would have to look at it from that standpoint. Again, that's worst case scenario going forward.
Now, this is 2020, right?
Yes.
So the number you see there of the 818, that's our current 8th grade cohort that would be incoming. And the number that we're using and we're modeling out here is our current 8th grade cohort, which is actually a fairly large cohort that particular year.
That 800 students would start at high school this fall.
12th graders.
They'd be freshmen next year.
Knowing that their senior year.
One of the things is, this is with transportation. We're not saying there's anything wrong with grandfathering in, but the question you asked at the work session
Right.
is how much would it cost to transport versus
Add the 11th grade.
Right.
So the 11th grade addition, you said would be a minimal, but
Potentially, because we would have 12th graders
already on the route.
already on the route. So if we decide to do 12th graders, that's where your significant cost is. With transportation, yes, sorry.
I'm really just thinking.
And I know that
And so
Dr.
that 11th grade, today is 7th.
They're 7th graders, yes. And we're modeling out the 7th grade cohort that's in our pipeline who would be 11th graders in 2020. And I mean, for this particular, and I know Dr. Hill has the proposed policy, attendance boundary policy, on the agenda. I mean, we do have for our high schools, we have some time to think about the grandfathering and to look at the potential different options that we could have. But that we do have the time on the high schools. If we were to look at approving the boundaries, we do have some time to discuss the implementation and the transition from a grandfathering perspective and the potential impact to cost if we were to look at providing transportation or not.
Now, wouldn't this be a one-time cost if we only had 12th graders, and it'd be a two-time cost if we did 11 and 12?
Yes,
exactly.
It'd be 2 years, and you can see in the additional, so you have to look at it would be the addition plus the M&O cost for the 11th and 12th graders, but the M&O cost would run for 2 years if we were to grandfather in and provide transportation to 11th and 12th graders, reducing a little bit in the second year because you're just transporting those 11th graders who are now 12th graders, but Mr. Miranda and Mr. Copps, it's not
half and half. It would be a reduction, but you still have to run the routes.
Right.
That makes sense. So it's not just halving the amount of routes. It may be a small reduction.
One of the other things to think about is if we provide transportation, that also changes the projections of the size of the schools as well. And so you could have kids that are zoned to one school opt to stay in another school, which takes that school's population higher because we're transporting them there. The other school goes down low.
One unique thing about our high school boundary change compared to what often when school districts are looking at high school boundaries, they're looking at it for the implementation of a new high school. So they're implementing it with 9th and 10th graders at the new high school, grandfathering the former students. But we are proposing to change boundaries across our 3 comprehensive high schools. We've talked about, grandfathering and allowing students to grandfather in, particularly students who are very involved in a particular organization are such at a school and have built that relationship with a particular coach or program, allowing them to grandfather in. But we wanted to, and based on our conversation, if we were to provide transportation, the cost implications, I think that's an important consideration. So we have considerations on grandfathering and allowing children to grandfather and what that criteria would be, and that could be discussed over the next couple of months. And also then, would we want to provide transportation or not based on the cost estimates?
You guys have really shared with us some scenarios that we know will take effect and take 2 years, a minimum of 2 years to go through this change. And you've really outlined a lot of scenarios that are very important to us and to the community. So I thank you for looking at this, because these scenarios were on a lot of people's mind. And you investigated and gave us a very good report on it. Thank you.
So next steps, if we were to approve the boundaries, my team has been ready, and as we often do in these, we are prepared to communicate. If the boundaries were approved, we have to get a plan in place, whether they're approved or not, and sometimes that feels like we're doing all this work ahead of time. But we would need parent, student, and property owner communication, be clear, and make sure that everybody is aware of the boundary changes, FAQs, and updated information. Shalia and our communications team, really strong website there for us to add information to. And I know that Dr. Hinojosa, working very closely as a whole transition plan of ways that principals that are receiving students from a different school, welcoming them. And as part of our communiques, we had a whole meeting on this with our planning team, and we're very insistent that, we needed both a notification that the general school district notification talking about a particular property and a one for the student, but also a welcome letter from the new principal going out very shortly after to any student that could be potentially coming to their campus next year, but looking at ways for students to visit their new campus and all of that to get excited about where they're going next year. And we'd work very closely with Dr. Hinojosa on that.
The only point that I want to reiterate, I know it's a very difficult decision. I know we've already mentioned the need to go ahead and be able to let parents know and students know so they can try out for different clubs and activities. But also, we're in the middle of the staffing process, and our principals cannot staff their buildings until this decision is made, because they don't know if they'll be getting new kids and they'll need more teachers, or they're going to be losing teachers. And so the more that we wait, we'll have to hold off in terms of, in our budget process that we described to you at the work session. They've already had their staffing with the principals in terms of how many teachers they may be getting or how many teachers they may be losing. So all of those things will have to be put on hold to a certain degree until we make the decision. Of course, we know about how many teachers we replace every year. There are certain teachers we can just recruit for open, but most people want to know what building they're going to versus just being hired in the district.
That concludes my presentation, and I just want to say thank you to Dr. Watson and to the board. This has been an incredible learning opportunity for me. I've learned so much about the district and our community. I thought I knew all our schools and
all the institutional knowledge that people that have been in the district longer than I have shared. It's been a really great learning process for me. And I'm particularly proud of the proposal. They're tough decisions. The attendance boundaries are tough decisions. But I think our committee did an incredible job in our planning as well. And I just want to say thank you to them. And that concludes my presentation. Any additional questions?
And thank you. Ms. Denholfield. Trustees, given the impact that this item has on our community, I would like to hear comments from anyone who has signed up to speak under public participation regarding the attendance boundary review. Do I have a consensus from the trustees to move those comments to this point in the agenda?
Yes.
Right. Chief Hill, do we have anyone registered to speak about the attendance boundary review under public participation?
No, Madam President, we do not.
Well, that's interesting.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you're right.
I will now entertain a motion to approve the recommended revisions to the attendance boundaries as represented by the administration. There being no motion, I would assume that means that the trustees would like to look at this in more detail and consider it a little longer. I know there's a variety of ways I can go by parliamentary procedure. We could have a motion and then discuss it and then table it, correct? Or just no motion at all?
I think with the exception of the high school, like warrants for discussion.
For the elementary and middle schools? Certainly. Now, just remember, some of this needs to be done presently, and some of it is 2020. And if this is being done by a motion anyway, between now and 2020, we have plenty of time to discuss it with the community and make any changes we want to the motion.
Vote tonight would be fine. And I just need a little more time. And I understand that there are needs. Cheerleaders trials have been put off, and I mean, I'm even willing to do an additional meeting if that's necessary, so that we don't have to wait all the way till the next board meeting. But, I'm not.
Can any of you all let us know what else you need in terms of information from the district? I know Ms. Durant had a question or some data that she requested, and she said that she was good, and we're going to give you some more written information. But if there's anything else that's needed, we'll be more than happy to provide that for the team. But, one of the things we wanted to do, as we've said all night, is we wanted to give you way more information than you needed because we wanted to be transparent about everything. If the issue really is we just don't like the boundaries that were done, then we really need to know where we need to go because we don't have a lot of time. I mean, it's, we have middle schools that are in the selection process for Roberson that are waiting until this is done. And we have things that are in hold, in limbo right now. And so if there's specifics that you need, just let us know what those specifics are. But if there's things that you just don't like, the high schools and moving people around, I think we said it very transparently. One of the biggest issues with the boundaries is our high schools and the feeder patterns, and some of the same things that we don't like and that we may have concerns about within the feeder pattern are some of those same reasons why I believe that we need to look at them and to challenge and to fix some of those things. And so we're more than willing to do whatever you need us to do and get more information back. But I do want to reiterate that there are several key things that we need to move on. Elementary and middle school we could go ahead and look at, but that does have, in my opinion, have an impact on the high schools. We do know that we can't have Clark at 130% again, and Heritage is sitting at 70, 68 or 70%. I mean, those are things that we know that we must fix, and that's going to be a major change for Heritage that we've got to plan for.
That's where my real concern is.
Can we do a closed session for a few?
That's why I was calling Jeremy up.
Can we do a closed session for a few moments?
This is what concerns me.
Can we have
This isn't something we can put off to next year.
Okay. Texas Government Code 071. To speak with the board council, I would like to ask my colleagues if we could adjourn the closed session and then come back out with a vote.
Good.
Everybody in favor of that?
Yeah.
Jeremy, if you'll give me that section again. What's this one? The Board of Trustees will now recess this open session and convene in a closed meeting in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071, for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized. No voting will take place during the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussions in the closed meeting will take place after the board reconvenes in open session. The time is now 10:42 p.m. I got you, Mel. We will now reconvene and resume the regular meeting of the Boards of Trustees. The time is now 11:30 p.m. I will now entertain a motion to approve the recommended revisions to the attendance boundaries as presented by the administration.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the recommended revisions to the attendance boundaries as presented by the administration.
Second.
It has been moved by Trustee Durant and seconded by Trustee Davis that we approve the recommended revisions to the attendance boundaries as presented by the administration. All those in favor, is there any discussion at this point?
I just want to say this was an extremely difficult decision. Let me tell you. As somebody said earlier, we need to do what's best for our students. Had some lengthy discussion and went back and forth, and it's we're going to have some upset people and we're going to have some happy people. I just hope administration and the board can stand united and let's work through the concerns that many of our parents are going to have, because I'm going to tell you, we got some concerns and we're going to have to work through those. And we need to stand together and work through this process that's going to take the next few years to get through. And like I'm saying,
I want to say that change is always tough. I echo the sentiment and the comments from my colleague that we had to stand together and be able to tell the same story and support each other during this whole process.
We are committed to the success of every school in Spring ISD.
Right.
My children went through Spring schools. My grandchildren are here now. And I want every single school to be one where I would feel perfectly good and confident that my grandkids could go and have a good education. And I want that for everybody's kids. And so we're not going away. We're not just passing this and then just letting it fly. We're part of this process.
Spring has changed, and we must change.
All right, let's go for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Woo-hoo. For our next item, I would like to recognize our Chief of Staff, Julie Hill.
We're not done. That's what
Done?
recommended changes to the boundaries already.
I apologize. I'm just so excited. I just got carried away. Sorry, let me compose myself. I'm okay.
Okay.
Hard.
I believe that you have your packets, and if you could join me on page 14. Following our work session on March 9th, one of the items that we brought back was a second reading of Board Policy FC Local,
What page?
page 14.
Page 14 is safety and security. Am I in the wrong packet?
There's a, the small packet.
Okay, the one we got here.
What's the title of the small packet?
FC Local.
Page 14.
It's your agenda for tonight.
Oh, okay. I didn't get agenda for tonight.
Okay, help me out here. It's late.
Let me go in here.
Is this the one where I asked to look at the change around the,
This is the one where you asked for the information on grandfathering in 11th and 12th
Yeah.
grade, and that's the information that was provided earlier. Yes.
okay.
So as you recall, this is a policy that we're adopting.
Yep,
Um,
I'm with you now.
Okay. And so we waited until after the vote was taken for your decision points on the attendance boundary review before we made a final decision on this particular policy, which is why it was pulled off the consent agenda.
Technically, there's supposed to be a motion on the floor of the conversation.
Okay.
I'd like to,
Usually Chief Hill reviews this, but this is a second reading, so I don't think.
It is, so,
Is it the FC local?
Second
yes, it
reading.
is. It's a second reading.
So,
So
Did-
I will now entertain a motion to approve and adopt the proposed revisions to Board Policy FC local.
question?
I think we discuss it after we make the
Okay.
motion
Second.
and second it.
Okay.
Who made the motion?
No one made the motion. I moved that the Board of Trustee approve.
We're tired.
Excuse me. Revision to Board Policy FC Local. Thank you, sir.
Second.
It has been moved by Trustee Davis
Gotta
and
go
seconded by Trustee Durant that we adopt the proposed revisions to Board Policy FC local. Is there any discussion?
Discussion, I don't see any color changes. What did we do?
We did not make any color changes. It was just, believe we asked to hold it until after the vote on the attendance boundaries that was just
Okay.
taken.
Well, weren't there originally some changes?
This is a brand new policy.
Brand new one? Okay, so that's where I would like to see the 11th and 12th grade under the attendance boundary changes remaining. Have the option to grandfather and remain at their school for both 11th and 12th grade.
Yeah, I think that was a
fine.
discussion point, right?
That's my discussion point.
We out of order, really. We had a motion second. Call for the question.
No,
No,
we can discuss
Are
it.
we
We can
discussing now?
amend
We
it.
discussing now?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
amend it, sure.
Can you repeat what you said?
Under the attendance boundary changes on
11th, 12th
page
grade.
2 of 2, and they provided us with the cost, it was $500,000.
There was like 1.5 million for buses, right? And then it was like
We didn't have a copy of
$600,000.
it, but I thought I saw 683,000
Yeah, but then it said plus.
That's just the M&O.
Without the.
That was the M&O.
There would
And
need to
the-
be
with the
additional
transportation,
buses.
and that's for 12th graders.
Plus the
You said to
1.6
add-
million for the buses.
Hmm?
Plus 1.6 million for 16 additional buses.
So are,
That's just for the
That's a lot of money,
transportation.
guys.
are we asking for,
A lot of money.
are we asking just to include 11th with 12th? Or are we asking also to fund the transportation? Those are two different questions, right?
Yes. I'm asking my colleagues allowing the 11th graders grandfather. If there's some stipulations that you want to include their transportation in, I'm open. That's a lot of money.
All I ask is we be cautious because once it's in policy, it's like law, and we have to do it. Whereas if it's not in policy, we could do it. And I do notice it already says a student who's entering grade 12 may remain at his or her current campus. So what you would want to do is amend that to be a student who's entering grade 11 or 12. Is that what you're saying, Ms. Durant?
But it says shall not be eligible for district provided.
Well, those are two separate questions. I mean, we've got two separate issues. So that's part B. Paying for the transportation is part
Payment
B.
transportation is part B, yeah.
Well, we have time with this. Is it tabling it, Mr. Binkley, to look at it later? Then I move we table this to look at this at a later date.
Can I ask, just because of the 5th and 8th grade implications, because I know we're very focused on high school, but there is, for 5th and 8th graders to grandfather in, no transportation provided, which is pretty standard. We have not seen any other school districts ever provide transportation for those middle school or 5th graders.
Okay.
But if we are to move forward and to communicate for the near-term elementary and middle,
I would be, I think that was the question, and thank you. I would feel better if we offered it without. I'm fine, I'm okay with that, but I would like for them to have it. I wouldn't want to be there 3 years, star-led or on the football team, and then my 11th grade, I'm looking forward to being a senior, and I gotta go. That's now if we allow them to stay, but they have to do their own transportation because we can't afford that. I'm fine with that, but I really feel that that child and that parent should have that option.
I agree.
But aren't you going to need some time to rewrite this policy to include that language?
Oh, no.
No?
That is no problem. We can have that for
Okay.
you immediately. That's an easy change.
Okay, then are we ready for a vote to carry this motion with the agreed on change?
What's the change?
To put in 11th grade and 12th
With no transportation provided.
with no transportation.
So that on page 16, when you look at, if you go down to the bottom two bullets, if you look at the second to the last one that currently says a student who is entering grade 12, we would change that to say a student who are entering grade 11 or 12.
11th or 12th. That would be the
Right?
change.
That's what you're looking for.
Yes.
Okay.
So this policy,
Ms. Newhouse, are we
policy
ready for the
changed in
vote?
2020, right? So 2000,
Okay.
2020, it would change back to just regular, right?
No, this is policy.
They provide.
Wait a minute, I thought we were just doing it because of the boundaries.
And I think, Dr. Hill, too, the last
I'm
paragraph, if
confused.
you notice, it talks about in the very last paragraph of
The
the
11
policy,
should change
that
to
needs to
10.
be changed to 10.
Yes,
That's why I said that should go to the 10.
yes.
Your point, this would only come up again. This would only come up again if we had a boundary change.
That's what I was asking.
So we really put the cart before the horse with the boundary. Without a policy. Now we have our policy.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I just think.
I know
that
we all
11%
tired.
should have that.
All right.
Correct.
Okay, we ready.
I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of this policy with the changes, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Next, we have the consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion to approve and adopt all the items listed on the consent agenda.
I move that we adopt all the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
It has been moved by Trustee Durant and seconded by Trustee Newhouse that we approve and adopt all the items on the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. The motion passes unanimously. Next is the public participation portion of our meeting. Chief Hill, do we have anyone registered to speak under public participation?
No, Madam President, we do not. We do not.
They gone.
We did our closed session earlier, so we are not going to have that in this time. So there are no other items on tonight's agenda. So I will now entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So the high school planning guide is under the
Do I have a second?
agenda.
Second. It has been moved by Trustee Gonzalez and seconded by Trustee Durant that we adjourn tonight's meeting. The time is, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It passes unanimously. The time is 11:46 p.m. Thank you, trustees.